This is Talk Drive. Back tomorrow afternoon between 1 and 4. But technology allowing, because it's going in and out like a whore's drawers. Did I get that right? We're on between now and 7 o'clock. Listen, if you want to be part of the show, as ever, quickly make a note of the number. If you don't know it by now, where the hell have you been? It's the home of free speech and common sense. It's 0344 499 1000. You can ring our Jodie, who is in the good books today by a merry mile. This woman has brought me, ladies and gentlemen, rich tea biscuits. Rich tea she's brought me. That's how caring this woman is. Although they are the sugar-free ones, Joe. They taste like cardboard. But the generous of thought was there. Ryan's here, by the way, for your voice notes. WhatsApps 0344 499 1000. Last night, this is exactly what happened when I walked into the office today. This is my life. Ryan went, do you want to see a picture of what Lauren and I did last night? Now, you know, any sane person would go, you want to show me a picture of what you and your wife were doing last night? Ready for this? If I offered £1 million in cash, right, of my own money that I haven't got, I would literally not get the right answer between now and 7, right? The answer is cleaning the cat's teeth. Literally, they took the cat to the... where did you take it? To the vet, and the vet said, cat's all right, but its breath stinks. Can you please brush the cat's teeth? I will put the photo up later on of Ryan and his wife cleaning the pussy's teeth. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. 0344 499 1000. Text as ever on the show, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. In the next 3 hours, we will talk about how suddenly, because I think Macron from France is coming on a state visit, I think about July the 8th or 9th, suddenly today France has pledged, ladies and gentlemen, to come up with a plan within 6 weeks to intercept migrant taxi boats at sea for the first time. So they've done bugger all for years. We've given them £500 million a year. But because Macron's coming on a state visit, the French are getting off the fence and going to get their fingers out of wherever they've been. Ho-hee-ho. We'll also have the amazing Peter Blexley on after 5, because today Britain's most senior police officers have directly warned Sir Jury Starmer that this is extraordinary. They will face stark choices as about which crimes they can investigate if the Treasury pushes ahead with cuts. I don't know about you, but I don't know many police forces that investigate any crimes anyway at the moment because they're too busy with their woke agenda. So that'll be an interesting one. Winter fuel payments. This is, I mean, it's all like, let's just say something to make people feel better. Rachel Reeves has raised hopes, not that she'll resign, but for millions of pensioners by confirming that changes to winter fuel payments will kick in this year. No detail, a bit like the defence thing. We want to do it. Having said we're not going to do it. Now we're saying we are going to do it. But we're not going to say how we're going to do it or when we're going to do it. There we go. That sums up the world. But perhaps the most exciting announcement, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to take a bit of time with this. Mike Graham will be joining me in half an hour because the Pope today, Pope Leo the... Is it 14th, 15th? I don't care. Anyway, the American one. He has declared war on the dangers of artificial intelligence, making it his mission to tackle the risks posed by runaway technology. He made a powerful address to cardinals, did Leo. He warned that AI could threaten human dignity, justice and jobs if left unchecked. Ryan, through his creative brilliance, has put in Jeremy Kyle, AI, sermon as Pope. And we will be reading it in full pope dress between now and 7 o'clock. That's quite funny. But let's say good afternoon to our first guest. Delighted to have a difficult booking. Just such an important lady. Assistant comment editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn. How are you?
Very good. You really made me laugh with that story about the cat getting its teeth brushed.
Honestly,
I was
mate,
giggling away.
No, but I mean, if your producer would say to you, do you want to see a picture of what me and my wife did last night? No, thanks very much. It's private. And you go, oh, look, there you are, cleaning a cat's teeth.
I didn't know that was something that people did.
No, I think
Probably smart. You know, they've got teeth too.
Well, I'm sure it's very good for the animal lovers. I just think it rather sums up how boring his life is. But there we go. Poppy, how are you? It's been a few weeks. Well, I'm being serious. He is. Come on, Ryan. Even by your own admission, you'd say he's boring anyway, so he's fine with it. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with France, police chiefs, or winter fuel payments? Your shout.
Let's start with France, because the France one is another one that actually did make me laugh. You know, so at the very, very low cost of £500 million over several years, the French have now announced that they might turn around a few boats that are crossing the Channel. I mean, I know people talk about taxi fares being high, but that has got to be the worst deal in the history of taxi deals, mate, ever.
Completely. And actually, it is confirmed. There's a Franco-British summit in London to be attended by Emmanuel Macron on July the 8th. That's a Tuesday. He'll travel to London for the state visit. And suddenly, they've pulled their heads out of wherever they've been and they're going to find an answer. And that then tells, I think, so many people, so there must have been an answer before. And we've been giving the French, as you quite rightly say, £500 million a year, which is ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Well, I think it's also the idea that this is actually going to stop the boats, which I really don't think it will.
No.
I mean, I understand why when the Reform Party said we're going to try and get France to do these turnbacks, well, that's completely valid because we are paying them that money. But that alone isn't going to fix the problem. The issue is when they do get here, and there are still going to be dozens of boats getting over here every day in the summer, what are we going to do with them afterwards? And that's the problem that no one actually wants to talk about.
I've changed my mind on this massively. I don't know what you or the Telegraph would think. I believe that the Royal Navy has to stop a couple of these boats, and I don't think they come in. But more than anything, I hear about a deterrence every day. There was an article in the Mail this morning that the Home Office, Mrs Ball's department, actually admitted that the deterrent of Rwanda, even the threat of that, saw fewer numbers than now. And I wasn't a fan of Rwanda. My real, for me, the major deterrent is simple. We're too soft. The pull to the United Kingdom is too strong. We make it too easy, and I think we're making people's lives who come here better than the people who live here in the first place, and that's why people are up in arms, Poppy.
I completely agree. And you know, if you get reporters that actually will go to Dunkirk, go to Calais, and look at how these people are getting on the boats in the first place. Everyone knows about it. They literally get on trains. I mean, like, they're not just camping by the ocean. They're in these ocean camps. They get on the trains. They don't pay the fare. They go at the same time every day. People know when to expect when they're going to make these crossings. It's all very well coordinated. The thing is, the French don't want them either. So you're never going to get a permanent solution from just pushing them back to France. By the time they're in France, it's almost kind of a bit too late, unless you have a good policy, as you say, to make them not want to come here.
But the point is, you say
they come here, they're going straight back home.
Absolutely, and you make the point about France don't want them and they don't want to be in France. But everybody wants to come to the United Kingdom, and it seems to me that we are the last staging post, and that surely has to be, and I say it every day and people get angry with me, given the choice of a tent on a beach in France or a 4-star hotel with a mobile and probably credit in the bank and a Pilates lesson, a driving lesson, and probably your own dentist like the cat within 24 hours, you're going to come to England. And the reason, and why I get so angry with the lefties who say to me, but you don't understand how unfortunate these people's lives are. I'm sure there are many people who have unfortunate lives, but these people are taking advantage and we are allowing them. And the reason the British people are up in arms is because it's to the detriment, I think, of people in this country, big time now, and I think that's why it's kicking.
Yeah, it's simple supply and demand. There's a reason why people don't come up the Belarus route through Poland, okay? Because it's not a pleasant route. They don't make it nice for people to come up there. They've got armed guards. It's difficult, okay? People will take the route that is easiest for them. That is just human nature. It shouldn't be left and right. It should be common sense.
I couldn't agree more. This is a great one, though. We got Peter Blexley on at 5, but I know you'll have something to say on this. Police chiefs today, this was all over the papers. Britain's most senior police chiefs have left their woke games, and they've directly warned Sir Keir Starmer that they will face stark choices about which crimes they investigate if the Treasury goes ahead with cuts. Now, I would respectfully suggest, and I'm not labelling all policemen and women who I think do a very good job, but it would be fair to say that most people would think the police ain't been very good in terms of curing crime in the last few years. You don't see them on the streets. They seem to have a particularly weird approach to, well, you know, Lucy Connolly or that bloke that worked on Times Radio, frog marched him out of his house for daring to say something on WhatsApp, and yet, sorry, I'm going to say the wrong thing, you know. Hugh Edwards, the paedophile BBC presenter's walking free and getting a pension. That priorities are all wrong, aren't they?
No, well, we talk about which crimes they're going to do. What does that mean? Which tweet they're going to look at you at and take you in for? I mean, I also have a lot of respect for the average people working in the police force who just want to do their jobs properly. But we do also have to get real that the reason why people aren't going to believe that these cuts are going to make much of a difference, because although the police is already, you can say it's underfunded, well, they are prosecuting crimes. But they're the wrong ones. Their priorities are completely out of whack. That's not about money. That's about bad leadership, okay? Why is it that police forces haven't bothered turning up to burglaries? Why is it if you get your phone nicked in the street, they just give you a crime number and they don't even bother looking for it? You know, that is not a case of money. That is a case of effort and priorities. And that won't change unless it comes from the very top. And
that's and I said this during and after those appalling riots in South, and I make this point again. There's so much I've said about that. I've said about Lucy Connolly, very bad what she said, but, you know, 31 months in prison, ludicrous. When Starmer stood up and said, and there were far-right rioters, that's right, but when he labelled everybody far-right, at that precise moment we had no police on the streets, we had no space in our jails, and it was about a 3-year waiting list to go to court. Well, within 24 hours on the Sky cameras, apparently all of these far-right thugs have been dragged off the street, filmed, taken to court, filmed, right, prosecuted, filmed, and thrown in jail, filmed. And I thought to yourself, well, so if that's possible and you're right, that is your argument about two-tier policing and two-tier justice. And to me, you're absolutely spot on as ever. They seem to prosecute or follow cases of things that aren't as important as some of the things that they miss.
Well, I think it's also, you know, when you finally get an appointment in the NHS after wasting God knows how many hours in the morning trying to call up and get one, when you actually get to talk to a GP, you'll 9 times out of 10 actually have a good experience. They'll get things sorted and you'll be like, all right, well, I've got trust in the system working, at least when I get through the door. With the police, the problem is you can get in and speak to them, but actually getting them to prosecute the crimes, to actually go after the criminals, is really hard. They will give you that insurance number, but they won't actually follow up proactively on the crime. And that's, I think, the difference. That's not a money problem.
Paul in Cheshire agrees. He says, Jez, a great show. Finally, the police are talking sense. They can't afford the rainbow cars, dancing police at festivals and policing X. They're going to prioritise real crime now. Oh, wait, have I got it round the wrong way? I'm confused. That's the point, though, isn't it? You're absolutely right. You know, we're going to send 6 people to that man's house because he's put out a tweet that's got a few hurty words in, but we're going to allow... Oh, I can't be doing with it. I don't know whether you know about this story. This has just been handed to me. This is going to send me through the roof, so I apologise. Judges are granting exceptional asylum claims in a third of cases. I don't know if you listen to Mike in the morning and watch him, he has Migrant of the Day. We've heard stories of people staying in this country because their children wouldn't like the chicken nuggets if they were sent home. I genuinely had a story 3 weeks ago of a man who had an illicit sex industry business where he sold toys. I'm being completely serious. Couldn't go back to his country, went to court and said that under Sharia law that was wrong, so he would lose his income, so the judge let him stay in this. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous. A third of these cases, judges are granting asylum to these people. A third of them. After murderers and paedophiles are allowed to stay in Britain due to the rights of family under the ECHR. It's madness.
I mean, so it's funny enough you mentioned it, because I was at an immigration roundtable talk with people that had been dealing with immigration lawyers for decades and decades. And they said the old stereotype used to be that the immigration judges were relatively conservative, would generally err on the side of, no, we're not going to actually allow the case. And now it's the complete opposite. I mean, they are so ideological, so many of these judges. They've literally gone in because they want to make it like, they want to be nice. Yeah. You know, they want to help people, but they don't actually care about helping the people of Britain. You know, it's about human rights law. But, I mean, this is the whole point. They will always talk about procedure. They will always hold up the thing of like, well, we're just following the law to a T. But it's like, no, it's about interpreting the law. And there is bias. There is ideology involved. And that's why you have to leave something like the ECHR, because you cannot give them an inch or they will take a mile.
And I think you're really right. When you talk about bias and ideology, what chance have we bleeding well got? Because we've got a Prime Minister and all of his chums, he was one of them, is a human rights lawyer. So, you know, we're going to give away the Chagos Islands to the Maldives. They don't even want it. I mean, Mauritius, I don't think they do. But the examples, I mean, that Lord Hermer, isn't it, his Attorney General, another human rights lawyer who thinks it's OK to put Lucy Connolly in jail for 31 months, but it's OK for Hugh Edwards to walk free. And murderers and paedophiles are allowed to stay in this country if they come up with some obscure reason, using a law, the ECHR. Do you know, somebody said to me yesterday on the show, the problem is, Jez, if you leave the ECHR, we'll be like Russia and Belarus. I don't care. I think the ECHR is outdated and it doesn't work for the British people. But more than anything, a bit like I said to you at the beginning about migration, Poppy, it's like it's being taken advantage of and we look ridiculous, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just think the ECHR is not older than Magna Carta. It's something we joined voluntarily, and if we voluntarily decide to leave, we're a democratic country, we should be able to do that. That's the difference between us and Russia and Belarus. We're a democratic country. There is nothing democratic about immigration not being in the hands of the British people as a political decision. That's not a democratic thing to do. I completely agree. We need to go. Are you all right with the call quickly? Have you got 2 minutes? I could do 2 minutes, very quickly. We're going to Paisley in Scotland. Paul, I'm here with Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph. What's your story? Go.
A couple of months ago, it's just regarding the two-tier policing we have nowadays. Coming home from work, heading into Glasgow, heading for the motorway, someone dropped a brick from the bridge above, smashed right into my windscreen, nearly ran into another car, there was cars next to us with kids and things like that, and nearly smashed into them. Luckily I didn't. Phoned 999, took them 40 minutes to come. They gave me a clean reference number, and then they says, we'll get in touch with you. Do you know if there's any cameras? And I went, well, I don't stay about here. You should know, you work here. They shrugged their shoulders, went away. I phoned them on the Monday. This happened on the Friday. And then the crime had been dropped. Now, really, honestly, that's just about attempted murder.
Sorry, so you're driving home on a packed road with kids in cars. Somebody throws a brick from a bridge. The police take 40 minutes to come. You could have quite easily caused injury or death to other people, including yourself, and it was dropped. And yet they will send 6 policemen or women around to somebody's house who's written something hurtful that upset some lefty on Twitter. The world's gone mad, Paul, hasn't it?
It's going crazy. Honestly, it's not even just that. It's everything. Everything with the police. People are just constantly complaining about the police, and they're calling in two-tier care as well, if you know what I mean, because it's like we can't do anything with serious things, but we can do things for poor Lucy for 31 months.
Listen, stay there. You're a good man, Paul. Thank you very much indeed, Poppy. I mean, that genuinely, Paisley in Scotland, guys rang up straight away onto the show. That's appalling.
Well, you know, that reminds me of it. Are we only going to actually arrest people if there's a video of it on social media? Because it's like with that Stratford thing, where they in the Westfield in Stratford, those teenagers who tried to throw this chair down, which could have killed someone, they didn't do anything about it till it went viral on social media. So I'm sure that's the only way you get them to do crimes anymore.
I think it's amazing. Listen, I know you're in a hurry. You're a very important person. We really appreciate it, and thank you. I know you've been busy, and thank you so much indeed for taking the time. 4:20. Poppy Coburn, assistant comment editor at The Telegraph. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive. So you might want to talk about how France has decided, on the back of the fact that Macron's come on a state visit on the 8th of July, the day after I'm 60. Shut it, Ryan, don't say a word. I'm working on my birthday. They're gonna start sorting out the migrant crisis. Do we believe the French? Police chiefs have been warned that if they've warned the government, if you continue to make cuts, we might not be able to afford to solve any crimes. Have they been solving any crimes? And asylum claims from murderers and paedophiles who say my child will this, or there's some obscure reason why you can't go back. A third of them are getting to stay in the United Kingdom. This is this country, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to be here. Mike Graham, somewhere in the building, the legend that is Mike Graham, the man that brings you morning glory, the man that is up and at it. Tall and erect every morning. He's next on Talk Drive.
40 years, white British people will be a minority in their own country. That is not good. When did the people vote for that? I mean, that's a very serious question. They never voted for this. And the fact that we treat this as if it is completely normal is absurd. If I would show you a number that says Saudi Arabia will be majority Christian in 40 years, your question would be, why is that? What happened? What did the Saudis do? How could that take place? And in Britain, we say, well, this is then these weird BBC documentaries where they say, well, somehow Britain has always been a nation of colored people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
At 4:25, we're live across the United Kingdom. The day on Talk starts with the legend that is Mike Graham. Morning Glory is the only place to wake up to. I mean, honest to God, migrant of the day. It is the show. The man lives. Have a digest. Look, we've got rich tea biscuits.
I can't eat on the air because I'll just start spitting it at you. I mean, seriously, I can't. It'll just go all over you.
Spit at me if you want.
I'll go all over you.
How are you? I haven't seen you for weeks,
Listen,
man.
we've got a new feature now. We don't just do migrant. We do lie of the day now.
Lie of the day.
Lie of the day, which is obviously the first time in the morning that Keir Starmer tells a lie.
Yeah, well, opens his
Usually
gob.
about 8 a.m.
Yes.
is when he puts his first lie out for us all to.
Well, I'll tell you what.
take in.
Let's go with the main news of the day.
Yeah.
And let's see which is the biggest lie.
Right.
On the back of the front, the Macron's coming for a state visit on July the 8th, the day after I'm 60.
Bringing Mrs. Macron.
Well, might be a slap in the face.
Could be.
France has pledged to come up with a plan within the next 6 weeks. That's 42 days. Although we've been giving them 500 million quid a year for 8 years, they're going to come up with a plan to intercept the American taxis and get it sorted before Macron gets slapped when he walks down the plane.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I would slap you. How are they going to sort it out? Imagine this scene, right?
And if they can in 6 weeks, well, the bloody hell didn't they do it before?
Well, the French police, picture the scene, the French police are going to wade into the sea.
Yes.
They're going to grab these men who are on dinghies trying to come to Britain, trying to leave France where the French don't want them.
No.
And they're supposed to, arrest them and haul them back onto the beach, like beach whales. They're not going to do that. Why would they? They don't want them there.
No.
They're quite happy to wave au revoir to them and tell them, look, just go that way and the border force will pick you up, take you to Angleterre.
Angleterre. So we think that's a lie.
Yes, complete lie.
Complete lie.
Yeah, rubbish.
Britain's most senior police chiefs have directly warned Sir Keir Starmer that they will face stark choices about which crimes they'll investigate if the Treasury goes ahead with cuts. I would say the biggest lie there is they don't actually investigate crime anymore unless you send a tweet.
No, I mean, most crimes, the detection rate of most crimes is now below 10%, in many cases below 5%.
Wow.
They don't even find people who have burgled your house. They don't even bother looking for them.
Did you hear the bloke did you hear the bloke from Paisley in Scotland?
No.
Driving along the motorway, just came on with Poppy Coburn and I, from work 3 weeks ago. Kid throws a brick off the thing, smashes windscreen, veers, he could have crashed, killed. Police took 40 minutes to get there, gave him an insurance number, he phoned up on Monday and they dropped the case. But if he put on Twitter, the police are tossers or something, he'd probably be in jail for a year, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about, priorities.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And so then, this is a manoeuvre by old Rowley to try and get more money out of the government. And of course, the government's so stupid, they've already said they're going to give it to them. So Rachel Thieves is going to nick money from somebody else and give it to the police now.
Oh, not another lie from Rachel Thieves.
I'm afraid so.
No, no, that's 4 lies in a row.
See, her hair was looking a different colour today. Did you notice?
I'd like to. Our next guest is Jack Elsom. I've never actually asked him this, whether he actually believes she looks like Richard III, because you and I definitely think she looks like Richard III.
No question. She did look today even more like him, because the more she looks kind of, serious, that's the look.
She's weird, isn't she?
She's very weird.
And in fact, today, another lie from her. She's raised hopes for millions of pensioners by confirming that changes to winter fuel payments will kick in this year. She's not said how, when or why.
Or how much you have to be earning before you don't qualify for it. But also, they've said that the reason why they're able to do it now is because they've improved the economy. Right?
I thought they'd screwed the economy.
They have. So that's another lie. Because they've absolutely backtracked because they've realised.
How can you call your feature lie of the day? Why don't you just call it the pack of lies of the day?
Well, it is. But I mean, because they're trying to get in early, you see. I mean, people have said it's too early because there's a lot more lies that happen after my show's finished. But that's not my problem. These are just the lies that they tell.
I would say when he opens his mouth and stops sleeping.
Well, have you seen
lies.
the tweets? He actually put a tweet out at the week yesterday, I think it was.
Did he?
This came out of 10 Downing Street, and it was a tweet about stopping the boats, right? And he basically said that our plan is working, is what it said. But it was narrated by somebody who sounded like it was from the In-Betweeners. And it was like it was like the intern was narrating it. Oh yes, we've smashed the gangs. You know, we've stopped the boats. Our plan is working. Well, it's clearly not working.
No,
it's another lie.
Miserable.
I think I'm going to have to get some kind of sound effect, you know, for a lie. You know, like the big thing on the X Factor, something like that.
Yes,
that's what we need.
I nearly said the wrong thing there.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing. This is another lie. Judges are granting exceptional asylum claims. Which is sort of allowing murderers and paedophiles to stay there. To a third of cases.
Yeah, of course.
Chicken nuggets, sex toys, the stories we've done.
Yeah, the Nigerian psychopath who's been possessed by the devil. I mean,
I can't get over the sex toy one. Do you remember that?
I do.
The bloke literally said, I've got a job. He said, I've got a business smuggling sex aids, vibrators and things like that. He said, and let's be honest, if I have to go back, he didn't sound like this, but I'm just telling you, if I had to go home, he said, to where I come from, he said, under Sharia law,
they're not keen.
Sex toys aren't allowed, so I'll be skint, so I've got to stay.
No, so the rampant rabbit's not for sale in Iraq then, or Iran, I guess. There
I
we
don't
are.
know.
I don't know either. It's got to call a different name.
I'm the only person in British television history to give one of those away on a phone-in show years ago and get it biked to the winner at
I remember
midnight.
you told me this story. It's not for public consumption at this time of day.
No, it isn't, but it's good. It's
but, you know, more lies, right? Because surely, if it's a third of cases, they're not exceptions. You know, that's actually more likely to be the rule.
I'd like to ask you this, actually. It's a good point from Lynn from Owlsmore. I don't know where Owlsmore is, bless her heart. Do we agree? She says, I somehow think these judges are worse than our politicians in a way and have an agenda. They're all human rights lawyers. They're all obsessed, aren't they, with the ECHR?
Yeah. Oh, I've seen judges and lawyers criticising Robert Jenrick over the past few days. We had him on the show this morning. For going down into the underground. First of all, having a go at him for that because he didn't get permission. I mean, as if that's a thing. Meanwhile...
I want conviction politicians, by the way.
His attack on Lord Hermer was branded a disgrace by several of these human rights lawyers who are all defending Lord Hermer, saying, you know, he doesn't have a choice who he defends. It just so happens that he's been defending, you know, some members of Al-Qaeda, Jerry Adams,
whilst also
and Shamima
advocating
Begum.
that Lucy Connolly stays in jail for 31 months,
Yeah, it just so happens that that's kind of how the cookies fall, and that's the cases that he gets. Oh, yeah? Really?
I think they're all in it
Pull
together.
the other one.
Well, I've only got one, so that will be quite difficult.
Yes.
I don't know what you make of those news stories, my friends. France to stop the boats. Police chiefs warn Starmer about Stark choices. Asylum claims being granted too easily. And winter fuel payments could return.
My favourite story this morning was the new appointment of the new head of the RAF.
Oh.
He's never flown a plane. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. People said it doesn't matter.
You got me.
People said it doesn't matter, right? Because he's been
Who is that? Ryan, how do we miss that?
He's been an engineer. It's in the Mail, page 4.
He's the new Chief Defensive Staff.
No, it's not the new Chief Defensive Staff. He's moved up. So his replacement, who's now going to run the RAF, is a former engineer in the RAF.
Who's never flown a plane.
He's never flown a plane. And people started saying, wait on a minute, you don't need to have any expertise to you know, you don't need a taxi driver to run TfL. Would it probably be better?
Would he be the Grant Shapps of the
he could be. And also, somebody pointed out, well, you've got the Chancellor of the Exchequer who can't add up.
No.
So
we've got a business secretary who's
lied about being solicitor.
And we've got a Prime Minister who, it could be said, lies about quite a lot, although we can't go into that.
No, of course not. You know, and has some very interesting hobbies, as far as we know.
Interesting hobbies that we can't possibly go into.
No, we can't.
Now, I always associate with you great fun. Your show is utterly amazing. Have you seen this incredible story today? Pope Leo is it 14th?
I think it's
Ian Collins is saying he'd love his when he speaks now. When he speaks to St Peter's Square, y'all doing down there, boys? Having a good day? He has declared war. Watch this, Elsom. This is creative genius, Jack Elsom. He has declared war on the dangers of AI, making it his mission to tackle the risks posed by runaway technology. In a powerful address to the Cardinals earlier, he warned that AI could threaten human dignity, justice, jobs, if left unchecked. What do you make of that?
Wow, I didn't realise he was so up on these new technologies. I mean, what did the Cardinals have to say about it? That's what I would be worried about.
I can't imagine any of them going online, can you?
No, never. They're not allowed. Not after 7 o'clock at night.
No. Well, so we had a bit of fun here. Put a photograph of me as the Pope. Let's have a look. See what we looks like. Oh, look at that. What do you reckon? So, can you see it? Look at that.
I can't see it.
You can't. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Oh, very good.
Yeah. So, Ryan, in a small
It's
moment.
like the Da Vinci Code. I'm getting chills.
I know. Look at me. I look like I'm having a. Anyway, he decided to put in Jeremy Kyle as Pope gives sermon.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I just like to point out, I haven't done this for a long time, but
Yeah.
this is quite funny. And if you just have a bit of a laugh because the world's quite serious.
It is.
Cue the music. Right, listen, you lot. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Sin is real. All right, sin's real. It messes up people's lives. It tears families apart. It drags you down. You were made for more. You think you've gone too far? You haven't, because Jesus, listen to me, Jesus, and I'm telling you this, he died for you, son. He didn't die for himself, he died for you. Not for a cleaner, prettier version of you. For you, with your baggage and your guilt and your problems and your sins. Sin's all right, apparently. And here's the truth. I'll tell you about this. The church isn't some sort of museum for saints. It's a hospital for the broken. Stop hiding, stop running. Confession's not some ritual, it's important. Tell them the truth. What are you going to do? Sit there, roll your eyes and feel sorry for yourself? Or are you going to stand up and say, God, I need you and I need you now? Because I promise you this, that this is important. God's not done with you yet. He isn't. He's got purpose for your pain, healing for your hurt, and love that will never, ever quit. You want change? It starts with God. Here endeth the lesson.
Brilliant.
I mean,
Absolutely
honestly,
fantastic.
amen.
Yeah, I feel like going to get myself baptised in the sea.
What was all that about?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Alex Phillips
I
has
know.
been baptised in
the sea. Yeah.
Now,
I was baptised in a font. Right?
A what?
A font.
Right.
In a church.
I said this to her and she didn't look very happy.
No.
The people who I've seen getting baptised in the sea recently are people who are trying to stay in the United Kingdom. Aren't they?
Well,
a lot
some
of
them,
people are saying, I'm now a Christian. We've
now,
seen pictures of people.
Yeah.
There are other people who are perhaps at a dodgy stage of their lives who've
Maybe.
decided to be baptised.
Yeah, looking for God.
Looking for God.
Yeah.
Alex Phillips looking for God.
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought I knew
Did you
her
think
quite
she was
well.
religious?
I didn't know she was, no.
I mean,
No.
fair play to her religion.
No,
but-
listen, good luck to her. She says that she's been becoming more religious over the last 4 years.
Understandable.
I just didn't know. But, you know.
Do you think I'd make a good pope?
Yeah, I think he'd be brilliant. An excellent pope. I mean, what sort of pope-mobile would you like?
A really nice one.
A really...
A Maserati. Having some
They should have a Maserati.
Yes.
It's Italy, right?
Yeah.
Why do they drive around in
Big
like a...
cigar,
Yeah.
Maserati,
Yeah.
wave at the... But I mean, touching the peasants as well. What's that all about?
Washing the last one used to wash their feet. Don't think you fancy that, would you?
Well, talking about washing, we'll end in the most bizarre way. As I started this show, Ryan walks up to me earlier, before I started, and he says this to me, mate. I swear on my life, he goes, "Want to see a photograph of what Lauren and I were doing last night?"
Seriously?
And I went, sort of, but not.
Yeah.
And what do you think he was doing?
Knitting?
They were cleaning their cat's teeth,
Oh.
as advised by the
Aye.
vet. Yes.
Yeah. I actually, bizarrely...
Ziggy, do you clean your dog's
No,
teeth?
but funnily enough, he had a clean and scale only last week because we thought he had a dodgy tooth and we might have to take it out. The clean and scale for the dog costs more than I get charged at Harley Street.
How much was it?
400 quid.
400 quid for the dog to be cleaned and scaled?
right.
That poor cat got a dishcloth on its gob. Oh, here we go. We're having a bit of fun and Kevin O'Sullivan's walked in. That's ruined
Don't
it.
tell him you're live on air.
We're live on air, Kev. All right, good. Brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Good to
Tomorrow
see you.
morning, what we got?
6 o'clock, I don't know. Not sure.
More lies
No
from
idea.
Starmer and
More
this
lies from
government.
Starmer. I mean, we're counting down to... It's usually about 8:05, 8:06, the first tweet goes out.
Only way to wake up every morning. My Graham, the legend, here from 6 o'clock with Morning Glory, 25 to 4, as Kev O'Sullivan walks in and says, "Come on, Jez, get on with it. Warm them up for me. I've got another 2.5 hours. Back in 3, I'm off."
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
22 minutes to 5 o'clock, some breaking news. Oh, this will go down like a lead balloon. HMRC, those people that get hold of you but you can never get hold of them, say that its security systems have detected unauthorised access to some customers' online accounts and those affected have been locked down. Just imagine now, when they ask you for tax, you can go, I had more in there. I'm telling you now, I paid. I'm telling you now, I'm not trying to cause problems here, but I think one of my accounts might have been doctored there. You owe me some money. You won't hear from them. But breaking news, HMRC say its security systems have detected unauthorised access to some customers' online accounts. You might have watched this show over the last 3 years and seen me take this young man from a sort of pup of a reporter to a world-class political journalist. Jack Elsom from The Sun, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, Jeremy, thanks. How are you?
I'm very proud of this young man. Are you telling him or am I? From Monday, this young man is the new political editor of The Sun newspaper. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Yeah, no, it is the absolute honour of my life to have been asked to be the next political editor of The Sun. You know, it is the best newspaper in the country, and every single day we speak truth to power on behalf of millions of people who have ordinary gripes up and down the country.
It's true, bud.
And you know, we go out to bat for them every single day, and the political team is at the heart of that. And I've got incredibly big shoes to fill. Old Harry's off to Washington.
He's off to Washington, D.C., Cole, with a bottle of red wine and a pair of espadrilles.
Yeah,
It'll be great. He's going to be on, but there's going to be more about that
is.
coming up as well.
But I've got a fantastic team in Westminster, and keep buying The Sun every day, read it online, in print and on broadcast to see what we've got in store. It's going to be an exciting few years.
The thing about Jack, ladies and gentlemen, and I mean this genuinely, says it as it is a totally genuine, decent. I'm chuffed, mate, for you. I think
Thank you
absolutely, and I think you've never been afraid to ask the questions that need asking, and that's what The Sun. For me, that's what The Sun has to be about, and it's always been about that. People would always say, "Oh, The Sun." The truth of the matter is, you have to ask questions, and you have to be able to put yourself in the position of, as you quite rightly said, more than ever. I think, right? I think. When we talk about migration, which of course comes up on when we're talking to The Sun, reading it, or we're doing this show, there's loads written about migration, and we've heard all the people say this is unfair. For the first time, I think in my lifetime, I believe, and this will be your job, is the British people, and you just said it, are starting to go, we've been fair, we've been reasonable, we've done this, we are now suffering.
Yeah.
And the one thing The Sun has always done in my mind is speak for those people.
Yeah,
and I think that's massively important.
And give a voice to the voiceless. And I think a lot of the time people feel an utter sense of helplessness and despair at the way the country is going. We see it in our letters pages and emails. I'm absolutely inundated with them every single day. Of people saying this isn't good enough. What are you doing about borders? What are you doing about Brexit? What are you doing about taxes? What are you doing about the woke stuff, crime? And we try and hold politicians to account and their feet to the fire on behalf of our millions of readers, and we do it every day, and it's going to be an absolute privilege doing this job, and I'll give it my all and certainly come on your show quite a lot to
Well,
talk
this
about
is what
it.
I was going to say to you, because they all change. Tice has changed, Farage has changed. They go, oh, when we get into power, will we be able to, I mean, will you answer the phone?
Well, obviously, you know, I'll have some airs and graces.
I will destroy you.
I know, you know what, you've always got me on speed dial.
You're a great man.
I'll come at any time.
Great man. Let's cut to it. Mike says it's all lies. Extraordinary. State visit on July the 8th. Emmanuel Macron coming for a Franco-British summit. Today the French have been pledged to come up with a plan. This is a plan that they haven't come up with for the last 6 years, or has been paying them £500 million a year, but apparently within the next 6 weeks they're going to come up with a plan to intercept migrant taxi boats for the first time in history.
So I was there 3 years ago.
What, Dunkirk?
In the Elysee Palace, when Rishi Sunak signed this deal with the French. £500 million it has cost us. And in that time, we spent all this money on them to try and stop the boats, and in that time, the boat crossings have actually gone up.
Of course. It's the weather. Don't be unfair, it's the weather.
Absolutely furious about it. And I think nothing spoke to that fact more when people saw 4 French coppers standing on the beach doing nothing while an influx left Calais and crossed the Channel. Now, France have been saying since February, and it's been a big win, which has been handed up by Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, that they will start to turn people around in the shallows. The law at the moment means that as soon as the French boat gets a tiny bit in the water, the French police can't touch them because of their laws. They've said they're going to review that and actually turn them around and take them back when they're in the shallows. Belgium ended up doing it, and Belgium hardly have any crossings across the Channel now. But that was in February, and we're now in June. So first of all, what have they been doing? And it seems like Yvette Cooper, we know, spoke to her counterpart Bruno Rataillou. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
They did it brilliantly.
I did French A-level.
Did you?
Yeah, I did indeed. And hey, She spoke to him over the weekend after we had that day of 1,200 record crossings, and clearly has told him you need to get on with this. But the proof will be in the pudding.
Why not sooner then? Why is this is another example?
Where is the urgency?
This is not urgent until, of course, there is some sort of Franco summit. I don't believe there is I don't believe it's as difficult. I mean, I've said it, I'd love your opinion from the Sun. For me, wasn't there an article in one of the newspapers today that said that begrudgingly the Home Office under Yvette Cooper had admitted that figures were better at the thought of Rwanda. However unpopular Rwanda was, there is no deterrent. For me, Jack, right, the deterrent's simple. The pull of coming to this country is far greater than staying anywhere else, because we do, and we say it every day. We put them in a hotel, we give them a mobile phone, they can see a doctor, they can see a dentist, and the reason I will sit here and carry on until they drag me out is that's all well and good when you're not skin. But we're not giving that to our own people. And that's why the British public need newspapers and radio stations like this to say, actually, we hear you, because they're not being heard. They're not being listened to.
And it's a sense of exasperation. And even the French seem to be laughing at us, because we had a French MP, you might remember on the radio earlier this week, that said that Britain is like El Dorado to migrants, because they're in France. It's obviously a safe country, and therefore they're not fleeing any sort of horror in the France itself. The reason they risk their lives, and it's a massive risk, people die in the Channel every single month because it is so dangerous. You're going through a busy shipping lane, often, sometimes even 80 people in a rickety dinghy. But if there aren't any bombs
in France, why aren't they staying there?
They are leaving because they get a very good life in Britain, and they get hotels, and we have a pretty generous asylum grant rate, and so I think that is a clear pull factor, and that it needs to be addressed. Illegal working, it's incredibly easy to disappear into the black market here and get a job, and so the Labour government has got their work cut out. We know the problems, they've got their work cut out to try and fix it.
He's got a real issue, doesn't he, the human rights law that is our Prime Minister, because this goes, what he needs to do goes against almost everything he's ever believed. The other story today I was going to throw before we go to a break, we'll keep you over. Judges are granting exceptional asylum claims in a third of cases. Well, we did stories on this show and people laughed at us, like, I can't go home because my son doesn't like the nuggets in Albania. A bloke with a sex toy smuggling business said under Sharia law I'd go skint. He's allowed to say. What was it the Nigerian fraudster Mike was talking about? A third of cases, people, I mean, they could be murderers, they could be paedophiles, allowed to stay by using the ECHR and taking advantage. And again, laughing stock, with a laughing stock.
Totally, and the frustration with the ECHR has grown and grown, because every single day in newspapers like The Sun, you have a case of some vile foreign offender who has managed to dodge deportation by appealing to the ECHR on often ludicrous reasons. You talk about the chicken nugget case. That was probably the one that I think probably set the whole debate off recently. I mean, Keir Starmer has said that he will, we revealed it in The Sun a few weeks ago, he has said that he will pass legislation to review this Article 8 application in British law. So judges will have to basically turn out flimsy reasoning on behalf of Article 8. But he says one thing. The question is now, where is it? Because it's been a few weeks since then, and we figure out it might come in primary legislation later this year. He needs to get on and act, because talking is one thing, but action obviously could be.
As the new from Monday political editor of The Sun, before we go to a break, if you're OK to stay over, let me ask you something. Most of the people that listen to this and watch this have the same criticism of Keir Starmer, that he's not a conviction politician, that he's one of those people who's obsessed with focus groups, and he says what he says in a reactive way when he feels it's necessary. Do you know what's happening with Farage, leading in the polls, unprecedented, 4 years out it might burst, the bubble I don't know. He is a conviction politician. We get the distinct feeling, not something, that's exactly what the country's calling for.
And I think that after such a disastrous, I think by their own admission, start to government, with all the sort of the winter fuel and the freebies and paying train drivers and the rest of it, when they were so, they were sort of so toxic, they're clearly now recalibrating, and they know what they need to do to try and win back disillusioned people. So they're talking about tough on crime, they're talking about tough on immigration. The problem is, as you said, it's the authenticity issue. People might look at that and go, but do you really believe it?
And if you believed it, why didn't you do it in the first place?
Exactly, and also, even if they say, we've got a massive problem with illegal migration, are you really going to then suddenly back Keir Starmer? Are you going to go, I am angry about immigration, and there's someone over there called Nigel Farage who seems to be actually alive to the issue and has been campaigning on it for years. So I think they're saying the right things, but they need to do a lot more to convince the country
at this moment at this moment in time, do you believe that, do you personally, not the stuff, do you believe that Keir Starmer, do you believe that Nigel Farage could be the next Prime Minister of this country?
I think that all of the three main parties, the three main, Reform, Tories and Labour, have a chance. I think it's 4 years away. I think it's a long time to go. I can see routes where they could all get a majority. At the moment, it seems that Nigel Farage has clearly got all the momentum, but I do think it's got a lot got work cut out on competency tests, you know, do his numbers stack up? Is it like a fag packet vibe? And I think there's two schools of thought with Nigel Farage. Either in the ballot box, will people waver and they go, is what he's saying too good to be true? Does he have the numbers to stack it up? Is he competent? Or do they go, actually, you know what, sod it. The past 2 decades in this country have been awful, and we might as well take a gamble, and therefore we're going to go with him.
I think the second thing at the moment resonates with people because they go, but you've told me you've been in power and then they've been in power. We've had this for 20 years. It's getting worse and worse. What if they make a few mistakes? Richard Tice was on this show yesterday. What I loved about what he said was, he said, when we get into government, we'll make mistakes. We'll be honest about it. That is Trump-esque. Yeah. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to upset a few people. But that's your agenda. Come on this journey and see what happens. Are you happy to stay now for about 5
years?
Yeah,
go on and I'll stay.
Oh, you see what I mean? He's changed now. I used to beg for it. Talk Drive.
Look, I think Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are amongst the most dishonest politicians we've had in our recent history. They just told lie after lie after lie. They said they weren't going to raise taxes. They did. They said they weren't going to take away the winter fuel allowance. They did. They said they were going to smash the boats, the gangs, and the gangs are smashing them. You're seeing absolutely astonishing numbers of people breaking into our country every day. Now they're saying it's all the weather. It's complete nonsense. They've lost control of our borders, as the Defence Secretary at least had the honesty to say on the Sunday media shows himself.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Jack Elson from The Sun, the new political editor from Monday, here with us. Just quickly, Vincent Morris on text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Jez, Mike Graham charged 600 quid for cleaning his dog's teeth. Hope the police gave him a bleeding crime number. Great show, you keep me sane. David Jouet Is he French? I have no idea. He's in Leatherhead, probably not. He says, as gloomy as some of your topics are, you absolutely make my day, Mr. Carl. Keep it up. We'll beat this crap with laughter. That's somehow how I feel. Jez, says Natasha, if we got rid of the pull factors to the UK, it would solve the problem for the French as well. If migrants didn't want to come here because there was nothing here for them, they wouldn't congregate in France either. Hurrah! Well said, 7 minutes to 5. Jack Black. Winter fuel payments,
Yeah.
Rachel Thieves, and Richard III, she has raised hopes for millions of pensioners today by confirming that changes to winter fuel payments will kick in this year. She confirmed that the benefit will be reinstated for many this winter. Now, again, what you said about those first few months, they got the winter fuel thing patently wrong,
Yep.
there was the freebie gate and all that. You said they've recalibrated. Would it be unfair of the British people to expect an opposition that knew months out they were going to win to have calibrated before they took power? That was, to me, that was her poll tax moment in a heartbeat.
Yeah, totally.
How stupid was that decision?
And it was so toxic. But what was, I think, quite remarkable is that they needed an absolute thumping from the British people in the local elections to realise just how toxic it was. You know, speak to anybody, you know, who is either a pensioner or has a grandmother or grandfather who uses winter fuel and needs it, and they will tell you just how incandescent they were. But I think the whole problem with this debacle is if you're going to U-turn, it's fine, and you take a bit of pain, but you've got to U-turn cleanly, and you've got to rip the plaster off. Keir Starmer sort of said that he was going to do a half-baked U-turn in the middle of Prime Minister's questions. We then had no detail on what they're going to change the threshold to, i.e. how many people are going to qualify who have since missed out. Then we didn't know when this is going to happen. Is it even going to come in time for this winter? Well, Rachel Reeves said today it is going to come in time for this winter. But why are we getting blood out of the stone? Why aren't they just saying exactly, we hold our hands up, we made a massive mistake, this is how many people are now going to get it, this is when we're going to do it, and this is how much it's going to cost.
But you see, for me, you know what I just said to you about conviction politicians? I think that we've been brought up to believe, or politicians have entered politics believing that they have to be, you know, clean as day. And you hear all these horrific stories about, you know, rent boys and drug problems and extramarital affairs and all these things, and everybody goes, oh my God, these are MPs. Wouldn't it be refreshing, Trump-esque again, to have the politician who says, and you're right, so I'm going, do you know what? I cocked that up. I was absolutely fundamentally wrong. I apologise to the pensioners. I'm going to change that. This is how, this is why. That's life. Yeah, I think you get credit for that, Jack.
I totally agree, and I think that politicians who apologise and are frank with the British public get much more traction with those who sort of put their head in the sand.
Bluster.
And if you are going to do an apology, do it in one go. Don't let all the details just dribble out over the course of a few weeks, because that's what's happened with this winter fuel U-turn. They haven't said how many people are going to be eligible now. They haven't said, well, they finally said it's going to be in place for this winter. We don't know how much more it's going to cost. We don't know where the money's going to come from. She's currently, Rachel Reeves, in the midst of drawing up the final touches in her spending review, which is coming next week. So there's a lot of spinning plates still, which is still up in the air. And I think that she owes it, after the pretty cack-handed start this was handled, to be honest now with the British public.
I wonder why politicians don't
actually tell them what's going to happen.
I wonder why politicians don't think they can be honest with the British public, because that, for me, and in your new role, I would, because I think it's really important. That, for me, is the biggest issue I have with politicians, that they seemingly don't respect either the judgment or the intelligence of the electorate. I think the British public don't expect politicians to be perfect. I think they have a bad view because they've been lied to, cajoled, or just, we don't need to tell you the truth. No, you do, because we elect you. And I think make mistakes, that's fine, but be honest.
There's two reasons why politicians don't do it. Some of them genuinely believe that what they're doing is right and they ignore all the noise, which is fine. Some of them realise they've cocked up, but then actually think, you know, the backlash will be so big and will be accused of being a U-turn. That's fine, but actually it's short-term pain, and yes, you'll probably take a bit of a kicking and screeching, embarrassing, humiliating U-turn, whatever, but in the long run it's much better than actually if you admit your mistakes and say, we got this wrong, but do it all in one go. Don't do what Rachel Reeves has done and sort of put a bit of a U-turn out there, but then the facts have to come out.
Do you think she's toast? Because I've spoken to many people who say that she'll be gone by Christmas.
I really don't know, if I'm honest. Keir Starmer has been pretty staunchly behind it. I think the problem is, and you found this with Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, when a Prime Minister sacks their Chancellor, who they've been so squarely behind, often it's them that comes next. And I think that they are tied together now, their fates, and I think that he's basically got no option really but to keep hold of her for the short term anyway. In the long term, who knows? Because we do know with Keir Starmer, he's many things, but he can be quite ruthless in terms of dumping people who are close to him.
Just with 2 minutes to go, your opinion, Have you been amazed at, appalled, surprised, shocked, or just not any of those things about the first 12 months of this government? Because I don't think that even their most ardent supporters could have foreseen, a word you used just now, the debacle that has been this Labour government.
I think it sort of went very badly very quickly at the start. Yeah. And I think that after 14 years of Tories who actually, did some good things, but a lot of bad stuff that people were fed up with as well.
Absolutely.
I think that people thought that it would be almost like the land of milk and honey, and I think they really broke trust early on, and that's the crucial thing, because they said they weren't going to put up national insurance. They then used a lot of verbal gymnastics to say, well, hang on a minute, we didn't say we weren't going to put up taxes on businesses. But and then they said, obviously the winter fuel stuff very early on, that wasn't in their manifesto,
no.
And they sort
council tax.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that they lost trust early on. I think they're doing a lot of stuff which we give them credit for, but I think that it was that early stage which they were really trying to get back from.
Quickly? Can you get trust back?
Oh, it's hard to get back. But then again, 4 years is a long time, and the stars could align for Keir Starmer if the right is split, Nigel Farage and the Tories. But then again, the local elections showed that Nigel Farage is just as dangerous to the Labour Party as he is to the Tory party.
He's definitely living rent-free in Sir Keir Starmer said. Can I just say, for the umpteenth time, nobody could be prouder. Really happy. Jack Elsham, the Sun's new chief political editor. No. That you were chief political correspondent. You're now God, aren't you, to be honest, from Monday?
Thank you, mate.
Look at that. I'm the Pope, he's God. What an afternoon. Almost 5, news on the way. If you want to be part of this vain attempt at a show, 3 ways as ever, 0344 499 1000. You can phone Jodie, you can send a WhatsApp voice note to Ryan, you can also text whatever you want to say, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. News is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. couple of minutes past 5 into hour 2 of Drive for Wednesday across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. You're very welcome to talk if you want to be part of the debate. As ever, 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Text to 87222. My daughter just texted me on my LinkedIn page, not the Yellow Sun, I need some more connections, Dad. What does that even mean? What's LinkedIn? Peter Blexley is here. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Oh, gee.
It is the most tiresome, tedious social media platform in the world.
Is it?
Okay, yes.
Good man.
Yeah, but it's only populated by people who are utterly brilliant, because they tell you that. Whenever you go onto anybody's LinkedIn profile...
No. We're rubbish.
Completely pointless.
Anyway, good to see you, man from Del Monte. What's going on with that jacket today?
I say yes.
Right, loads to talk about. And I read this in the paper last night, and I literally texted Ryan at 11 o'clock, and I went, "You've got to get the main man tomorrow." So delighted you're here.
Thank you.
I want you to take a breath, because this is right up your street. Britain's most senior police chiefs have today directly reminded or warned Sir Dreary Starmer that they will face stark choices about which crimes they need to investigate if the Treasury pushes ahead with cuts. In a significant escalation before the spending room, Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Met, and other senior police officers have written to the PM warning that cuts will have far-reaching consequences. They said negotiations between the Home Office and the Treasury were going poorly, and further cautioned that there would be a return to cuts to frontline policing last seen under austerity. Now, I'll give you, Rowley obviously wants more money, but I would like to just I feel like I'm going to throw a bit of meat into a sort of a crocodile thing. They won't be able to investigate crime? Oh, I didn't think they tended to do that unless you sent a bloody tweet nowadays.
Well, come on now, let's think about it. If you have your house burgled, dreadful,
terrible,
very serious crime, by the way.
Yep.
Which some people simply never recover from. They have to move home.
Psychologically,
and
quite right.
They carry that trauma with them for life. Burglary, no, largely doesn't get investigated. You know, if you work so hard to afford that decent van in which you carry your tools and it's the lifeblood of your business, and you come down in the morning and some unscrupulous thief in so-and-so has nicked it, will that be investigated? No. So we all carry our lives, or so many of us do, within our phones. You come to London, you're thinking going to the theatre for the night, you've saved up, you've bought expensive tickets, you're dressed in your finery, as is your wife. You come out of the railway station, go onto the Maps app to see where you're going.
Doing it with your hand. Yeah.
And along comes some hoodlum, probably on an electric bike, and snatches that from you. Now, will that get investigated?
No, that won't either.
No, probably not.
No.
You get pickpocketed on the tube, forget it. And the list goes on. In fact, the only way that you will, in all likelihood, get a fully resourced, professionally investigated crime in Britain in 2025 is if you are the victim of murder.
That right?
It's a bit too late for you as the victim, isn't it?
I actually never disagree with you, but I'm about to. If you call somebody a nasty name, the police will come in their droves to arrest you. 6 of them, probably. True?
Oh, what, on social media, you mean?
Yes.
Say something that somebody gets deeply offended by.
Yes, like I didn't like the teacher and the way they treated my child. We're sending 8 people round to arrest you, you piece of rubbish.
And then only to find out some weeks later that you were guilty of committing no crime whatsoever.
It's laughable.
And they want more money to do that.
This is about money, isn't it? Nothing more.
It is. Whilst they spend... And we need to mention this because this has been a hot topic of late, whilst they spend millions of pounds on diversity, equality and inclusion.
I learnt something yesterday about horns and, what was the other thing? What was it called? Halos. Do you know what this is?
No, I don't.
This is part of diversity, exclusivity and the other word, training in the NHS. And so people who work... You know, left-wingers, people who think they're saving the world, they've got halos, and anybody like you and me with an opinion has got horns with the devil.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to be too distasteful, but it has been known that I've been a horny devil from time to
Hey, there we go. Certainly not a fact backed up by Mrs. Blexley, who's long-suffering and is in care.
Plenty of children.
Really? Not yours. No, on a serious note, this is just... I mean, you make the point. I mean, I remember us talking a couple of years ago when we had a shopkeeper. We were doing the JK Live thing, and this guy had spent his life building this shop. And you can nowadays go into a shop and nick £199 worth of stuff that this guy's old lady has worked hard for, and they ain't getting anything. We had a phone call before, you wouldn't have heard it was at 4:10. Guy in Paisley in Scotland driving along, check this out the other day, driving on the motorway, brick lobbed. This was last Thursday. Smashed his windscreen, he has to veer, he could have gone into other cars, he could have died, could have caused injury. Phoned the police, took him 40 minutes to arrive in Scotland. They gave him an insurance number. He phoned the station on the Monday to say what's going on, case dropped.
Yeah, a case quite easily...
Could have caused death.
Could have resulted, yes,
yeah,
in death, quite easily. But of course, the police, so many of them have their two favourite questions when they rock up to a victim of crime, if they in fact do rock up, and that is, have you got any CCTV?
Yeah, that's exactly what they said to me when I'm driving a bleeding car.
Or the second question is, do you know who did it? And you see, if your answer to both of those questions is no, then they are such numbskulls, so poorly trained, so ineffective, so incapable of conducting an investigation, they say, oh, well, then they write it off. Now, let me just remind you, if I may, and the audience...
Absolutely, always.
...that when I was a young detective...
In 1745,
in the 1980s, 5:45, in the 1980s, OK, there was no CCTV.
No.
And most people who were victims of crime, like burglary, car theft and the such like, of course, didn't know who did it. And yet, do you know what? We investigated.
But we know how
crimes,
you investigate it, because you had coppers
people
on the streets and you got intel and you had networks, and nowadays it's all computerised. Do you blame, you called them numbskulls, do you blame the policemen and women on the streets, or are you saying, from what you're saying, that it's right above, that there is not the direction, there is not the training, the resources, the desire? It's now a job whereby it's a tick box situation, isn't it? It's more important to get that crime, apparently, than that crime.
All of the aforementioned is accurate, and I have long been a defender of the courageous men and women on that front line who, to use that very apt cliche, run towards danger when others would run away from it.
Yeah, true.
But increasingly, the front line is being populated by the wokerati as well.
Is it?
By people who are not suitable to do that job, people who, with the blessing of lunatic organisations like the College of Policing and the National Police Chiefs Council, hand down this pseudo-liberal kind of mindset where all the ludicrousness and the tolerance of stuff that should not be tolerated in a disciplined organisation is permitted, if not encouraged.
Which is really worrying, isn't it? Can you hear if we do a call, or has he not got an earset in? He can't hear. Oh, right, we're going to dip the mic so you can hear. I want to do a call quickly because it's about police cuts. Nick in London. Nick, you're on Talk Drive. How are you?
Very well, Jeremy. Hello, Peter. I hope you're well. We're in June, the Pride Month, God help us, and the police seem to have plenty of money to go to Pride events, repaint their cars, presumably when the month's over, paint them back. And at the same time, they've got plenty of money for that. At the same time, they're telling the government they've not got enough money to investigate important crime, burglaries, rapes, murders, and so on. Well, you can't have it both ways. You've either got plenty of money for the nice liberal lefty stuff of Pride Month, for example, or you haven't got enough money to investigate crime as you ought to.
Yeah, I did comment, didn't I, on that very thing about the whole DEI expenditure in terms of diversity officers and the such like. However, I did see a police car only the other day, an image of a police car that's trying to get around that they didn't paint the police car. This car wasn't painted in Pride colours because, of course, that would have cost money, and how many times have I sat in this studio railing against that? But what they did do was drape a bit of bunting over it. So thereby they show their allegiance and don't spend money.
Nick, can I just ask you something? You're in London, you know, the crime capital of the world. You've got a mayor who doesn't seem to want to be able to do anything about knife crime. He seems to want to support other things. Am I wrong in assuming, I don't know how old you are, but when I was brought up, I was scared of the police, and they were there to sort crime out and make sure the streets were well organised. It's gone completely the other way, pal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I'm more or less your age, Jeremy, and I can still remember the name of the local officer on my home beat, which was a hometown area, Hampton, which is hardly Badlands. Hampton still isn't. And the local officer kept the place safe by being around and seen and visible, and he kept high-level crime down and low-level crime down. I can still remember him turning up outside school some mornings and making boys riding bikes on pavements run up and down to the huge merriment and mickey taking of our schoolmates, and it stopped it. You know, it stopped. You knew if you did something wrong, you'll get a visit from this place.
Drag you by the ear. Thank you so much indeed, Nick. You drag them by the ear back home to your parents and humiliate you. Now kids give the V's to the coppers and run off down the street. Could you survive? And I'm being completely serious. Could you survive in that job today?
Not as a frontline uniformed officer. No, I couldn't. Let's just look at the case of that PC in Devon and Cornwall that got sacked last week for sort of rugby tackling a young man and not being civil to him, being a bit too impolite towards this young man who from whose waistband a Stanley knife fell as he was tackled to the ground.
Oh, right. A Stanley knife, and he tackled him and the policeman got into trouble.
So, no, my colourful language, my robust approach and my determination to take scum off the street would probably mean I was deemed unsuitable.
Well, it certainly means you always get on here. That's good. So you're not that impressed with that. I'm going to throw at you the other main news of the day, because we love that, because you're not given for not giving it out, are you? So we'll be very quick. Despite the fact for the past 6 years, or maybe 4 years, we've given the French £500 million a year to try and police the boats that leave the French shores to come here, because apparently it's war-torn in France. No, it's not. There are hotels here, not tents. They've done bugger all. However, Macron's arriving on July the 8th for a Franco-British summit, at which point today the French have pledged to come up with a plan within the next 6 weeks, 42 days, to intercept migrant taxi boats at sea for the very first time. Lies.
I think Macron's getting a state visit, actually, as it happens.
Is
all
he?
Bells and whistles, the whole shebang.
It's a bit of a slap in the face for his wife, isn't it?
And these new regulations, boom,
Thank you.
These new French regulations mean that their gendarmes will be able to challenge the boats if they are within 300 metres of the French coast.
Right.
So, how many cases are we going to have when Officer Pierre or Poirot goes to his supervisor and says, "I'm very sorry, Signor," or whatever it is, I don't know.
Signor, we've gone from French to
exactly.
Spanish, it's good.
Until I only speak one language, barely. I'm afraid, we would have intercepted, but it was 302 yards from our coast, and we were powerless to do that. Anyway, it'll be at Dover in a a few hours, safe and sound. They'll all be picked up by the
RNLI will do it.
I
had that the other day. My old girl used to volunteer for the RNLI, and I walked straight past them with the bucket, and I nearly said, I'm not giving you anymore because I know what you do. Now, the other news today, judges are granting, this is awful. Mike used to do Migrant of the Day, still does it on his brilliant breakfast show. We've been telling loads of stories about people grabbing hold of the ECHR and getting to stay here. There might be a murderer or a paedophile, but they come up with some obscure law. Judges are granting exceptional asylum claims in a third of cases,
Oh,
Pete.
yes.
A third of cases, Pete.
Yes. And, of course, what really lies at the very heart of this is the interpretation of the European Convention on Human Rights, and what they say. And, of course, we've got all these lily-livered, liberal, frigging floppy-minded judges who are allowing murderers and paedophiles to stay in the UK.
Absolutely right.
But, you see, some European countries are waking up and they've written to the ECHR to express their concerns and they want them to change. They want change. These 9 European countries expressing their concerns in this letter are written by the leaders of Italy, Denmark, Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Poland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. All deeply concerned. Spot the country that's missing. Oh, yes, Britain.
Oh, yeah, no, we can't criticise the ECHR. The lefties tell me this. Do you want to know why? Because the only 2 countries in the world who aren't part of it are Belarus and Russia, and that will make us look like them. I don't believe that Churchill, who put this together 150 million trillion years ago, probably knew in that moment that the world was going to be like this. It is being taken advantage of by people so they can stay in this country. And Pete, I will say this till the cows come home. This went on for years. Whether it's the cost of living, whether it's COVID, whatever it is, the pandemic, right?
Yep.
The British people are now going, we're skint, we're at the back of the queue, these people are being treated better, this is a bloody disgrace. That is what politics right now is centred on.
Correct.
1,000,000%.
Correct. But fear not, because the Prime Minister, Starmer, stumble when I say Starmer, has previously said that he wants to ensure the right balance is struck in migration cases that go to that court. So I think the right balance should be that if you commit a crime in this country where you have come to make your life, then you lose all your rights.
But I've had this argument with those left-wing lawyers, and they will say this: well, you didn't commit the crime in the country that you came from. You did it here, so you should stay here. No, because if you hadn't come here in the first place illegally, the crime wouldn't have been committed. I don't think. I was talking to somebody today. It's weird how the world has changed. Certainly this country, and I know the lefties hate me when I say this. They hate me anyway. But I think the British people, Pete, who have always been very fair and reasonable, and I think we've always put ourselves, out. I think they are now saying, sorry, charity begins at home. And I think that's a direct result of the fact that many people think we are being taken advantage of, aren't we?
Another big story today, the white British people in this country are heading towards being a minority throughout the country, not just in London, where we already are, but throughout the country in the coming decades. So what is happening to the country? Clearly, our culture, our pride in this country, our love of this country is inevitably diluted when you import millions of people into this country who do not have a connection, an affection, a love and a pride for this nation. They simply can't. It's impossible to expect them to.
No.
You'd like to think that those who contribute and graft and become those brilliant doctors and nurses and the other people that make this country what it is.
Your guy that runs the curry house, the guy that drives me, fantastic, brilliant people, and more angry about it, by the way, the guy that drives me.
Yes.
More angry than people who were born here. And I'm being serious, because he grafts. But you cannot, I think, anymore expect the British people, certainly with what they're having to go through, to think it's OK for thousands of people to come here. I mean, I've said this to you repeatedly. Right, I've said this to you repeatedly, but you're married I've been punching with Mrs. Blexley for a long time. But if you were in a war-torn country and there were bombs raining down your boy's head and your wife's head, you'd bring them with you, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd stay there to keep them safe first and foremost.
Yeah, but if you were escaping, you bring them with you.
To fight the enemy.
Yeah,
that were throwing those bombs in.
But you know what I'm saying?
Right, but yes.
And then if you escaped in the middle of the night in whatever with your family, and the first place you got to where there weren't bombs raining down your head, you'd go, oh, this is lovely. No. We've got to get to the United Kingdom, because for me, the biggest deterrent in this country is not Rwanda or stopping the boats or sending them to the Falkland Islands. It's to stop giving them so bloody much when they come here to the detriment of the British people. That's it. It's not rocket science.
Soft touch UK.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
Yeah.
They know it. They admit it.
Yeah.
When you see them interviewed, when they're on the other side of the channel, they admit it. They know they want to come here because they will be catered for. And if somebody could name me a country that I could get in a dinghy, sail to, and be fed, watered, housed, clothed, I'd like to know where it is. All for free.
John Baldock in North Hart, he's angry with me. He says, understand the point you're making, Carl, however, please stick to the fact London is not even close to being the crime capital of the world.
London has a higher crime rate today than it did this time last year. It has utterly unacceptable levels of violence, harassments against women and girls. The murder rate would appear to be coming down this year, but those things are very cyclical and could be topsy-turvy from one year to another. And if he wants to come in London and be taken on a tour, I'll gladly do that, and I'll show you the lawlessness that exists down here.
I love having you on this show. My father-in-law, who listens every day, always texts. We'll read this before we send you away, because it will be Peter Blexley. He says, Pete's right. I was scared of the police when I was young. That was the whole point. And that's true, isn't it? He's 80.
Yeah, but you see, modern police think that policing is a popularity contest, right? It's anything but. In fact, you should wear your unpopularity amongst criminals as a badge of honour. You want to be unpopular with criminals. You want them to hate you. And back in the day, they hated me and my colleagues.
I love you, though. Peter Blexley, what absolutely fantastic. This winter, I think we should do Panto, you, me and Mike. Imagine.
Oh, no, we shouldn't.
Oh, yes, we should. And John Redwood. He'd be a great dame. Hey-ho. 5:23, it's drive time.
This is an issue where the Prime Minister and his cabinet, his senior politicians, should be talking to the people. We should be having a discussion about this, not some sort of petulant, we don't have blasphemy laws, and then just walking off. Yeah. I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
Well, he lacks the words to speak to people in difficult times, I think. Do you remember after the Southport killings, he turned up to lay a wreath, which was a responsible thing for him to do. But then when those people were sort of protesting on the margin of that and saying, what are you going to do about it, he just walked off. He didn't have the words to talk to them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5:26. We're live across the United Kingdom on the home of free speech and common sense. Can I just take this opportunity to salute my two wonderful children? I mean, I've got more than two, but they're in the car right now after swimming. Ollie! I love you. Rissy Roo, of course, in trouble. And their mother, who, frankly, is a legend. I had 2 weeks at home. You come here for a rest. I don't know how she does it. Extraordinary. Kids, be good. Love you loads. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87 222. Let's go to the phone lines, actually. Let's go to Bournemouth. That's near where... Anyway. Sam, you're on Talk Drive. A very good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good evening, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm okay.
We don't sound that happy, man. What's the matter with you now?
Wow.
Apart from the fact we live in a country that's on its arse. Right, crack on.
So now I just want to say about how infuriated I am with this whole migrant in hotels and getting priority housing, because I myself, a few years ago, through no fault of my own, was actually homeless.
Right.
And when I went to ask for help and support, I was outrightly dismissed.
Yep.
Just absolutely. I was told, no, you're a young male, that's it, you can sort yourself out. And the only reason I actually got support, which I'm not proud to say, is because I actually tried to take my own life. So I was then placed as a vulnerable person. And I wasn't put in a 4-star hotel. I was put in a little squalor, and I was given no benefits, no food and nothing. And I don't understand, you know, I'm a British-born person. My family are. They have been for generations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand where the discord comes.
And I think you make a really, really important point, and it's something that I've said on this show almost daily, and I make no apology for it. I think for years, this country modelled itself on being the moral leaders. Whether it was we're apologising indirectly, apparently, and I think wrongly, for so much of the past, because yes, there were things to applaud, but let's move on. I don't know. We were always seemingly first. We were rightfully, under Johnson, first to defend Ukraine. We opened our hearts and our homes to the Ukrainian people. I think the British have always done that. But with the onset of the pandemic and the cost of living crisis and everything that has happened to people in this country, the cost of energy, the cost of food, the cost of almost everything, I think we're at a point where British people are going, I'm not racist, I'm not being unfair, and yours is an absolutely brilliant example. I've paid tax, I've paid my taxes, and the first time I want some real help from my country, I get nothing. And explain to me then how it is you can come to this country from not a war-torn one, before people say that, and be treated better than me. And I get what you're saying. I think it's appalling. Completely.
Well, yes, I mean, I'm actually a very, very kind and compassionate person, and I open up to anyone who needs help, but not just people who just rock up willy-nilly and you go, what on earth is going on? Sorry.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Really, really appreciate your call, and thank you for your honesty in coming on the show. Sam in Bournemouth, quickly too. I have to look at the screen because I definitely can't. It's the age of 60. I can't even see it now. Amy's in Colchester. Amy, you're on Talk Drive. Couple of minutes. What you got?
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Not bad for a balding, nearly 60-year-old father of 6.
6? Oh, my gosh.
What? 6 or 60?
Oh, no, 6. I think you look pretty good, so... You know,
thank you very much indeed. Not bad for 60. I can't move my face, but that's another story. Crack on.
I was listening to you chatting to your Met chap. I missed his name at the start. I just caught a glimpse of it. And you know what really I just feel infuriated about is why do we not apply any common sense, you know? Obviously, you are the home of common sense, but why are we just not applying it through all levels of government, policing, you know, the public sector? Why can't we apply that?
I don't know. I remember watching the inauguration speech, and I remember Donald Trump talking about common sense, and Mike Graham's been talking about it. Julia has for years, and actually, I think common sense is such an easy thing to say, but apparently, I don't think so. But seemingly, people they find it difficult to implement. I'll tell you why. Because people are scared of their own shadows. I can talk about this honestly, right? About television and radio. I've been doing it long enough to say this because I'm not. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just being honest. I know many presenters on all sorts of stations and things. I don't have to know them personally. I can tell by listening that they're so scared, okay, Amy, of losing their jobs, they don't actually do their bloody jobs, right? That's me being completely honest. And that's the country we now live in. People are, I'm afraid, too scared to say anything. Look at what happened to Lucy Connolly, 31 months. I don't condone what she said, but there's surely a better way to deal with that. Common sense has gone out the window. It doesn't cost anything, common sense, by the way. It doesn't cost anything.
No, it doesn't. And what really bothers me, a lot of these police forces, you apply, you have to be a graduate to apply. Why can't people with life skills go and apply to be in the police force, you know?
I think you could look at politics and say that that's what's happening with reform. Nigel and Richard make no secret of the fact they've run successful businesses, they've employed people, and they've been problem solvers. They haven't, as most of the current government, gone to university, done a master's degree in politics and worked in some institute of fiscal understanding for the rest of their lives and have no life experience. Common sense comes from failure. It comes from different experiences. That's what I go on about every single day. That's what we lack in this country. Politicians who have the conviction to, here we are, make a mistake, admit a mistake, fall on their face, get up again. It's human bleeding nature, isn't it?
Absolutely. When you look at what Reform has done today in Kent Council, and you look at where they're finding the money, you know, that is common sense. We should be doing that across the board.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, it's great to have you on. Colchester will always hold a special place in my heart. Do you know the Colchester story?
Yes, you tell me this every single time.
I'm going now. You sound like my wife. Right, this is Talk Drive, 28 minutes to 6.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
25 to 6, we're live across the UK. JK on Drive and Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. We're delighted to have your company. Nan in Wales, is that it's not my Nan. Jez and Peter. This was from Bletchley. I remember when coppers used to grab your collar and march you home if you did wrong, and the shame of being a copper to your front door was really bad. Those were the days when they were a force. My son left the police in London 7 years ago because he couldn't do the job he was trained for. No college policing like today. It was common sense policing and fitness. Absolutely. Jackie says, afternoon, Jez, the word you are thinking of that the NHS uses is diversity and equality. That's 2 words. I have worked for the NHS for 38 years and I've just retired. Betty, LinkedIn is for people who are not busy enough to be working. It's where all the annoying old braggers went when people left Facebook. Try telling that to my daughter Alice. Lynn, if France stops any immigrants from crossing, what will they do with them? Will they put them back in the camps to join the queue again? Very interesting. We need to stop the money. Hello to Robin Lynn in Ramsden Heath. Why not send the migrants to the Ascension Islands for processing? A few plane loads would stop the boats, and for good measure, we own it, so no cost to the foreign country. We do, Robin Lynn, own it at the moment, but there will probably be breaking news within the next hour that Keir Starmer's given the Falklands away to Argentina and given them 20 billion. That's a joke. Karen's in Newcastle. Jez, they're doing it for one reason. Oh, is this the French? Threatened of losing their post to Reform UK and Farage. I don't trust Tories or Labour now. They are both done for. I think you speak for many people in the United Kingdom. Max is in Bristol. Hello, Max. Our Navy stopped the invasions of the Spanish Armada, Francis Napoleon and the Nazis. Why aren't they stopping the invasion of illegal migrants? Some people will be appalled by that, but actually it's true. Our Navy is supposed to do that. Afternoon, genuine question, Jez. Could you find out why at every Prime Minister's question time, Ed Davey has to mention President Trump, says Jane. Ed Davey is about the most inconsequential politician in the history of British politics. If you asked me, and maybe I'm wrong, during the election, he wore a jumpsuit and jumped in the river twice. He dressed up as John Travolta and left his final rally in the back of a car like it's a scene out of Grease. What do they stand for, the Liberal Democrats? Oh, yes, it's a protest vote. 72 seats. That should give everybody enthusiasm. 23 minutes to 6. Delighted now with our next guest. Well, I say with our next guest. We haven't spoken to him yet. He might be rubbish. Of course he won't be. He's brilliant. Head of campaigns for Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Andrew, good afternoon. How are you?
Well, Jeremy, that's an introduction, isn't it?
Well, you know, I've been on holiday, me old son. One of the great stories of today, because everybody says, you always favoured Trump. No, I don't. There's plenty about the orange man, baby, I don't. But Donald Trump and the White House has attacked the BBC's coverage of the Gaza conflict, accusing the broadcaster of taking Hamas's word as total truth. Donald Trump's press secretary accused the BBC of having to repeatedly correct its reporting from the territory about aid distribution. The comments came after repeated incidents involving the death of dozens of Palestinians around aid distribution centres controlled by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a new US and Israeli-backed organisation with Israeli troops accused of firing at civilians. A BBC spokesman said the claim the BBC took down a story after reviewing footage is completely wrong. We did not remove any story and we stand by our journalism. As a man for Popular Conservatism, what do you think of the BBC's coverage of stories? I mean, if we could just add in, yesterday it came out they want even more of the licence fee, Andrew Allison.
Yes, they do indeed. And as someone who also in a previous life ran a campaign for the abolition of the licence fee, you can probably guess where I stand on all of this. But in all fairness, it's not just the BBC. There are multiple media outlets all across the world who seem to forget that the Gazan Health Ministry is a propaganda arm of Hamas. So if Hamas tells you that Israel's killed half a dozen people, the chances are they haven't killed anyone. So why should we believe a word that Hamas says? But of course, the BBC wants to believe that there's a humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza. It wants to believe the worst of Israel because that's its worldview. And this is how far that the BBC has sunk, that it's getting criticised by the press secretary at the White House.
I believe there is a humanitarian crisis. I don't like what I see. I don't see it from one side. I see it from all sides. But I'm absolutely with you that the BBC, and I had this discussion yesterday with the amazing Adrian Mills, who used to do That's Life, of course, one of the best shows that was ever on television, and he defended the BBC, but he also criticised it. But my point about the BBC is I don't believe they're fit for purpose in 2025. I think that you would know this when you work in commercial radio or television or whatever, or whether you work online, it's all about how many hits and how many views, and that creates revenue via sponsorship or via advertising. And for the BBC to be the state broadcaster and to not have to prove itself, I think, is bad enough in a professional sense. But there is no doubt that if you look at the cut of their jib, as my old man would have said, God rest his soul, it is to the left. And I'm not just saying that because we're to the right, to a degree, I suppose. I'm just being honest. I mean, the state broadcasters should be straight down the middle. And they're not. They're worthy and they're woke. And it's blatantly obvious to anybody, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And can I just clarify what I said? Yes, there is huge humanitarian problems going on in Gaza. It's just that I wouldn't believe everything that comes out of the mouths of Hamas.
No.
But yes, the worldview of the BBC is to the left, and it's just as simple as that. But it's this metropolitan left worldview, isn't it? It's what you get out of Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer. It's not a working class left point of view, which is why Labour is doing quite badly in its traditional working class areas to other parties.
It'd be very interesting if the BBC... It would be very interesting, wouldn't it, if the BBC had to go to a subscription-based service. It would be really interesting to see all those people. By the way, I think Karen Levitt's fantastic. I'm just going to put it out there, the press secretary for Donald Trump.
Yes.
I think she does not give a rat's backside, and I love that about her. I think it would be interesting if the BBC went to a subscription service and had to say, you know, how would they prove themselves? Do you think they would be popular? Do you think people would I don't think people at the price would do it at all. Not in a million years.
Well, the BBC, as you know, Jeremy, says things like, oh, at just 35 pence a day, 40 pence a day, whatever it is, it's an enormous value. Well, my reply is always the same. If it's such enormous value, then you have nothing to fear going to a subscription service. Surely you will get millions, tens of millions of people all wanting to subscribe to you. The problem for the BBC is that it knows it's not particularly trusted anymore, and it knows that its output is certainly not what it was like when I was growing up in the 1970s and 80s, when it was absolutely brilliant programming. But above all, the BBC was trusted. That has gone now completely. So the reason why the BBC won't voluntarily move to a subscription service is because of that. But of course, it's now pleading that it's skint, that it needs more of our money, even though the very audiences, the older people who tend to watch the BBC.
When they say they're skint, I don't know the exact amount, but didn't they get over £3 billion last year or something more? Didn't they?
But you can't get much with £3 billion these days, according to Tony Hall. You know, sarcastically, I say.
£3 billion.
They get an absolute fortune, but they're always complaining that they haven't got enough money. I mean, maybe this year they'll have to send fewer journalists to a climate change conference or something
200.
like that.
Or what did I hear? 200 to Glastonbury or something, isn't it?
Well, they've sent massive amounts of journalists to things like Glastonbury, but they also have to these various UN summits on climate change and things like that. But that's what the BBC is complaining about, and I think it will come at a time when we will get some form of subscription service for the BBC, because the BBC is sort of clinging on to an analogue funding system in a digital world. And when you look at the viewing figures, not just for the BBC but for terrestrial television in general, I mean, it's pathetic. I did some research earlier. The highest viewing figures ever for EastEnders was a Christmas Day episode in 1986, over 30 million people.
I tell you, do you know how sad I am? 29,703,000. Absolutely. The divorce letter from Ange, Dirty
yes,
Den
that's
to
the
Ange.
one. Yes,
yeah.
That's right. But now, I mean, EastEnders struggles to get 4 million. I mean, really
I mean, here's a test for you. Biggest daytime morning audience ever in the history of British television? Figure?
I don't know.
2 million? 4 million people watching, 2 million, right? Nowadays, what does daytime television get now? 500, 600,000? Shan't tell you who got 2 million, because I'll be fired, but it's the truth.
No, well, yeah, but that's true. But the thing is, we just watch TV completely differently now.
Absolutely. On your smartphone, people think of course, the kids. I mean, they're joking about my daughter and LinkedIn. You watch it, terrestrial television, right, is never going to be what it was. And the BBC, I think the real gripe with the BBC, Andrew, is that they're this sort of, they carry on the same, and they make their demands and they expect to be given this money, and they don't seem to have modernised, and they don't seem to have improved what they give and the output that they give. And I think that's the frustration for so many people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, my son, my youngest son's 8 years old, and he never watches live television.
No.
I mean, just never.
No, I agree. Just very quickly, as the head of campaigns at Popular Conservatives, and one of the things that Conservatives were always strong about until Theresa May destroyed it was policing. But the Tories, let's be perfectly honest, justifiably, you could say, and quite rightly, that one of the biggest, I think, worst things that they did was to start to cut police numbers to the point where it's ludicrous. Police chiefs today warning Starmer that they will have to make stark choices. If the Treasury cuts more from them, they might not be able to solve certain crimes. Call me old-fashioned and a bit cynical, but strikes me that the British police don't actually solve many crimes anymore anyway, unless you write an offensive tweet. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I think you're right. And there's two stories in one here. I completely agree that it was a really bad error of judgment on behalf of Theresa May to cut police numbers. And I said that at the time, and I know some Conservative MPs who voted against it. People like, I think, you know Philip Davies, don't you?
Yeah.
Who's a former Conservative MP. Philip, absolutely. And Philip spoke strongly against it. But there's also those at the top of some police forces are quite happy to go around arresting people and seeking prosecutions because they've written something on Twitter or.
But that's just ego. That's not crime on the streets.
But that is their choice. They are choosing to do that. Now, I have no doubt that the police resources are stretched, but then they're going to make the right choices. And the people, the choices that the British public wants them to make is to go after people who are proper villains, people who are nicking things, people who are rapists, who are paedophiles, people doing all those sorts of real crimes that you want off the street. They don't want them focusing on people who've written something on Twitter which they later regret.
And that's my point about the whole country we now live in and the world we seem to frequent, is that be it the police, be it politicians, they don't seem to understand what the British people are saying. They want safe streets, they want crimes investigated, they just want fairness, they want to be able to see a doctor or a dentist. The reason they object to illegal migration is because, as I keep saying, they're at the back of the queue and they're paying the stamp. We've had stories today. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult for a politician to go, do you know what? I'm going to bat for the British people. That's not racist. It's not wrong. A bat for anybody. But first and foremost, I've 70 million people in this country. You just heard it from that guy from Bournemouth. And he said, I worked all my life. I've had some issues. And I was in a really bad place. I was homeless. First time in my life, asked for something. Not interested.
Yeah,
might as well have come in on a boat. It's not inaccurate to say it.
Exactly. And you remember that David Cameron said we're going to bring net migration down to the tens of thousands, which of course never happened. And it was failed promise after failed promise, which partly resulted in the demise of my party at the general election last year, and in many ways rightly so. I mean, promises were made and promises were not delivered.
We're always delighted to have you on this station, mate. It's a real pleasure. We love having you on. Andrew Allison, thank you, my friend, head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Now, for the first time this week, we're going to try and do... Are we going to do sport or are we going to drop it again, Ryan? What do you think? Should we do sport? Sam Ellard is like a caged animal, ladies and gentlemen. He hasn't been on for so long. He's pacing up and down. Let's hope that his preparation means that he'll perform slightly better than usual. We're back in 3.
European Union and India, right? Now, it turns out at least one of those deals with the United States is not a deal.
Yeah.
So why would they put out a video saying this is what we've done?
Exactly, and it's becoming a systemic problem because it's whether it's on trade deals and the economy to try and say that they've got a deal when they clearly haven't, whether it's about saying they're stopping the boats and the numbers are coming down, whether those numbers are actually backdated, maybe that they've inherited from a previous government, or whether it's about NHS waiting times, whether it's about investment in public, whatever it is.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
My friends, 8 minutes to 6. Push the button, Sammy.
Sport Summary on Talk.
I'm a sport nut. Talk Sport is my station. I've missed doing sport. I'm delighted to have back a young man who I think could achieve what Jack Elson has achieved. He's the new political editor of The Sun, and one day I think that Sam Ellard will be the breakfast presenter on Talk Sport. Hello.
That's actually... Hi. Good to see you. You know what? Sometimes
You're getting a
they
bit of
say...
action then from a girl you've met online, haven't you? You said you didn't want me to talk about it, but we have to talk about it because your mum's listening. Tell me about your new girlfriend. Come on, let's crack on.
I all just completely, once again, false, fabricated news made up from Jeremy. I feel relaxed and happy sat here right now.
You should do, because you are a talented man.
You're very kind.
I got a message here from your new girlfriend. She says you're looking great.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
You know that expression. You don't know don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that with you. You know, you go away for a couple of weeks, and we love Cardwell. We love Alex.
Who?
Cardwell, Peter Cardwell.
Oh, did he do the show? I didn't realise.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that spike was really big the last couple of weeks outside. It was.
No, listen.
Kev told me to say something about the spike today not being as high, but I'm not sure what he means by that. Kev who told me to say something. You want to, but when you do, you want to make stuff up about my personal.
Listen,
you know.
Did I make it up?
Yeah.
So you're not seeing anybody?
No, I'm not seeing anybody at all. I'm not seeing anybody.
You haven't met anybody online?
Yeah, I'm on dating apps. Yeah, for sure.
You haven't met anybody?
I meet people, but I haven't got anybody.
Listen, you are floundering here.
I'm not floundering. I feel calm.
So Kev said to say there was no spike today.
Kev told me to say something about the spike being lower than normal, but that was Kev because I don't know what the spike means. We don't really do spikes at Talk Sport. We just get on with it.
Let's talk on a serious note about sport. Where would you like to start?
Do you want to start with... Should we start with some transfer news? Because
I suppose so. Do you want to hear some news? West Ham are going to sign Aaron Ramsdale from Southampton, and they are going to buy Jadon Sancho in the next 10 days.
Is that right?
That's what I'm telling you.
Is that an exclusive? I haven't heard that.
I'm not giving you an exclusive, but they will sign both of those players, and you can all laugh at me. Go on.
I'm not laughing at you. Ramsdale feels like that would... I can see
that would make sense.
But Sancho,
yeah,
that'd be an interesting one. He'd have to take a massive pay cut.
We did it with Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, and he actually did really well, didn't he, at West Ham?
Maybe you could split the wages.
Between, You think United want to try and get some money for him, though? They've got to try and get rid of these players and bring in some money. So, lots going on in the transfer window.
Yes.
Reinders, very, very talented midfielder playing for AC Milan and Netherlands, being reported that Man City have agreed a £46 million deal with AC Milan for him. Real talented, versatile midfielder, 26 years of age.
To replace Kevin De Bruyne, who's going to Napoli on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, exactly that. And obviously, it's part of Pep almost a little bit like Pep 2.0, trying to refurbish this Man City squad. There's a Club World Cup tournament which starts in
mid-June.
A couple of weeks' time. So I think lots of for June the 4th, it feels like lots of stuff is actually happening.
Yep.
And I think with this Club World Cup, and obviously quite a lot of teams are going to be in it, I think teams are trying to get business done before that tournament starts.
How long does the transfer window stay open until, pal?
It's always late August, so it'll be a couple of weeks into the Premier League season.
Let's talk football from a female point of view. The Lionesses, it was an extraordinary thing when they won that cup, and I think everybody was involved. Another story, another player today, Millie Bright, defender, has made herself unavailable for selection for this summer's Euros, saying, and I quote, "I'm unable to give 100% mentally or physically." That is 3 players in 72 hours. Fran Kirby, going to retire, don't want to be part of it anymore.
Mary Earps as well, the goalkeeper.
Is there something going on here? 3 seems a large... Were they not going to be selected? Are they jumping before they're pushed? What's going on here?
Well, so Mary Earps, she kind of pulled out because she was no longer number 1 goalkeeper anymore.
Right,
and then decided to retire. So that was basically, she kind of lost her spot on the team.
Okay.
Whereas this is a different story, to be fair, with Millie Bright. She pulled out from this month's Nations League squad, saying she wanted a little bit of time away to almost kind of recover mentally.
Yep.
And now she's taking the decision to make herself unavailable for that squad, which is being announced tomorrow for the upcoming European Championships, where I think the others has been kind of almost retirement feeling.
You don't think there's an issue here?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I'm just saying, if the England football manager on the male side, suddenly 3 players in 72 hours said we're not playing anymore, somebody would go, oh, hold on a minute, I'm just wondering. I mean, oh, here he is, Kev O'Sullivan. Oh, yeah, you'll get it later. Crack on.
Kev, he's not happy that you told me to mention.
Just get on with the sport, will you? I'm being serious though about this.
On a serious note, I'm not. No, you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I haven't heard any kind of inclination that there is maybe something going on behind the scenes. I think with Mary Earps, I think given that she's kind of not old but coming towards the end. What?
Old? How old is Mary Earps?
No, not old, but she's playing.
You just said old.
No, she's getting older. You know, she's playing a lot of international football. No longer #1 goalkeeper.
How old's the girl you met online?
Very good. What is this sports section becoming? I mean, seriously. Should we move on and talk about the cricket?
What an extraordinary... I watched this yesterday. England romping to a 3-0 series clean sweep in the one-dayers against West Indies. Not the greatest team to go up against,
they're
right?
not very good.
Playing with a smile on the face. Just Butler looks completely free again. Swing the bat. Right thing to get rid of him as captain. Harry Brook, I said all along, will be. I said that to you for a long time.
You did.
Suddenly, everything's great. What
Yeah,
changes it so quickly, man?
Well, I mean, I just sometimes think a new team needed a new voice, a new direction, a new leader. I mean, Josh Butler, we know, is a great batsman, but the captaincy ate him up. They needed something a little bit new. The only thing they've really kind of changed in terms of personnel is Jamie Smith, who was kind of been a low-order batsman, opened the batting in this series.
He did.
Samuel Jackson, who had been an opener, batted at 7 as the closer. And both went really well. Sure, it's only been 3 games, lots of harder opposition to come. But both looked really, really good. Smith yesterday smashed 64 from 28 balls. I mean, if that was in a T20 game, you'd be impressed by that. That team, you look at the top 7, Smith, Duckett, Root, Brook, Butler, Bethel, Jacks. That top 7 on paper is seriously talented.
Very talented.
Atkinson, Archer, Wood, all injured, so the fast bowling unit is going to get better in the weeks to come. Very early days, but Harry Brook looks a real calm character.
Who told you a year ago that Harry Brooks would be the next England?
You called it. You called Harry Brook. You called Harry Brook.
I think the guy's got something about him. I think it's Joe Root-esque. I think keeping Root in the team as the senior batsman is great.
Scored 166 in the second game, and I think you can tell Brooks a real good thinker about the game. And I think you can be the sort of guy. I look like to me Butler, real overthinker, had the weight of the world on his shoulders. I think Brook looks like one of the most laid-back guys. And if things do go not so good, he'll remain calm.
Only a minute to go. French Open update. Tennis.
Yes, lots happening today. The real surprise is Boisson in the women's game, ranked 361st in the world.
Boisson?
Is into the semi-finals, which is
He sells this like anybody cares. I love it when he's selling
come on!
What's her name?
Her surname is Boisson.
Boisson.
A wild card, 361st in the world.
Amazing.
She knocked out the 6th seed in the semi-finals.
Where's Emma Raducanu?
Why do you... I don't like this Raducanu hate.
There's no Emma Raducanu. I love Emma Raducanu.
Why are you bringing it up? Coco Gauff also got through the semi-finals today, the world number 2. Yannick Sinner, straight sets win, into the quarter-finals. Getting underway very shortly.
Yes.
Zverev, Djokovic, should be a cracker.
Always great to have you on. All joking apart, we appreciate your involvement. We appreciate how professional you are. You're looking very well and very talented, and my love to your mother, as ever. News at 6 on the way then. Brendan O'Neill, and keep your calls coming on the show. 0344. Do you know the number?
03717 222244.
0344 499 1000. You're fired.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, hour 3 of Drive for Wednesday. We're across the UK, merely warming you up, ladies and gentlemen, for the main dish of the evening. Kev O'Sullivan here from 7 o'clock. If you want to be on 0344 499 1000, couple of quick calls, and then the amazing Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer for Spike. First, we'll go to Cornwall. Jill, couple of minutes on Talk Drive. What you got?
Well, it's the police, basically. The police are saying that they aren't going to be pursuing every case. They'll have to pick and choose the case if costs and money is cut.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for years. I'm sorry, I can't remember the last time I saw a policeman on the beat, and I do know that a few years back, a good few years back, we had 2 streamers stolen from the outside of our house. They were propped up against the wall, and my husband was just bringing them in, and I don't have any neighbours. My nearest neighbour is about a mile down the road. So someone had driven past and just picked up the streamers and drove off with them. And when I rang the police, I wanted to ring the police just in case. There was a chance that someone might come out and take a few details. No, they didn't want to do that at all. What they wanted to do was to tell me, you've got house insurance, haven't you? You've got contents insurance, haven't you? Yes, you have. Well, you need to get in touch with your insurance.
So you go to work, you pay your taxes, you spend your money on stuff, it's your property, it gets nicked, and the police can't even be bothered. Jill, I genuinely think that the police, and I don't know whether this would impact or even matter to them, I think the police are also in severe danger of losing confidence to the British public. Jill in Cornwall, thank you. Quickly, hope I get this right. Kidderminster. Lucrezia, is that right?
That's absolutely right. I was the pork packer that made you laugh so many weeks ago.
I beg your pardon?
My first job was a pork packer.
Right.
And it made you, it tickled you.
This is getting more bizarre by the minute, this show. You're a pork packer from Kidderminster. You got 1 minute on Drive. What are you saying?
Basically, my elder sister, she went in for the military police.
Yes.
She was told, she's 5'8", 5'9", was told that she had to lose weight. She was about 12 stone, which she lost weight, but she still didn't get the job. But it's what Mr. Bexley was saying. We need people who are built for the job. She's got 8 O levels.
Did she not get the job? Did she not get the job?
No. She didn't get the job. She got 8 O levels.
Sorry, am I right? She went in the 80s to get a job with the police. She had all the qualifications, and they said you've got to lose weight. Did they really say that to her?
Yes, they did.
Jesus Christ, honestly.
Yeah.
Let's not bother about catching criminals, no.
Exactly. She went on to be a laboratory chemist. She's now a nurse. But the fact is, I look and I think, we had so much wasted talent, and that's what gets in me.
Couldn't agree more. Lucrezia in the Kidderminster, thank you very much indeed. 6 minutes past 6, 0344 499 1000. Jez, read people smugglers. The person that steers the boat across the channel should be considered as a people smuggler and arrested and given a 20-year sentence. True. Bonzo in Bromley. What the hell does that mean? This is brilliant. The trouble with common sense is it isn't very common. Nice. Hello to Christina. Sarah... Oh, no, I'm not doing that. All right, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We say a very good evening. First time since back on holiday. Haven't spoken to him for ages. The legend that is Brendan O'Neill, chief political writer of Spiked. How are you, dear boy?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm good, thank you.
Nice to see you. I'm going to try, as I always try, in our short 20-minute section, not to have a breakdown. On the 8th of July... the plane door will open, an Air France plane, and after a quick slap from his wife, Emmanuel Macron will come down the stairs to a state visit. It's a Franco-British summit in London. On the back of that, 6 weeks away, today we discovered that France, this is brilliant, has pledged to come up with a plan within the next 42 days to intercept migrant taxi boats at sea for the first time. Now, by my maths, they've had 500 million quid a year for the last 2 or 3 years. They've done absolutely jack. And just because their president apparently is arriving on July the 8th, they go, this is rubbish, Brendan, isn't it? That's just hyperbole. It's rubbish, man.
It's complete rubbish. If they wanted to do something about this, they would have done it by now. They've got all the money, they've got the means to do it. They're just not interested. The French aren't interested in solving this problem. The British aren't interested in solving this problem. It's just going to go on and on. And, you know, the story that really struck me this week was the 2 Afghan guys who sailed on a boat across the channel with 30 migrants. A woman and a child died on that boat. That's a very serious matter indeed. Those 2 people were given 8 months prison sentences in the UK. They'll be out in 3 or 4 months.
Sorry, double what Lucy Connolly got. And they caused people's death, yeah? Brilliant.
So if you bring, you know, scores of migrants illegally into this country from France, number one, the French will let you do it because the French intercepted that boat and let it carry on to Britain. And number two, the British will give you the smallest tap on the wrist you can imagine. So every signal that the British government and the French government send is basically carry on doing this. We don't particularly care. Knock yourselves out, cross the channel, go into that country illegally. We don't mind. That's the signal they
and that was. And I wish I could have spoken to you on Monday. That was the irony on day one when we were back from holiday and that government defence review sprouted up, and he talked, didn't he, Starmer, about 2.5% by 2027 and 3% of GDP, and then NATO got involved. And I'm sat here thinking, you're talking about spending billions on our armed forces and making us prepared for this. We've talked about this triple axis of Russia and China and Iran for months, you and me. But actually, you can't even control your own bloody borders. It's easy to get into this country, which apparently wants to defend itself. You can come in and be treated better than people who have lived here all their lives. It doesn't make sense.
You know, you have leaders like Starmer saying, we're going to stand up for Ukraine. We're going to defend Ukrainian sovereignty. We're going to defend Taiwanese sovereignty. We're going to push back against Russia and China. He can't even defend British sovereignty. He can't even protect our borders from people crossing over illegally, thousands and thousands of them every month. He can't even protect Britain. The idea that he's going to be this seafaring, ocean-going defender of the world, this military supermind, is ridiculous. This guy doesn't know what he's doing in his own nation, far less being able to fight a war with anyone else.
Couldn't agree more. Loads of stuff in the papers today. Actually, let's move on from that to this shocking. I mean, there was lots, wasn't there, written about Lord Hermer, who's the Attorney General, who's another human rights lawyer, and how he sort of allows all these people to stay. Judges, this came from the Home Secretary. She says, the system around family migration has become so complex, right? The truth of the matter is we've got left-wing lawyers paid by the British taxpayer utilising every loophole in the ECHR to allow, you know, let's be honest, people who could be murderers or paedophiles to stay in this country. Judges, we find today, are granting exceptional asylum claims, right? Exceptional ones, like, you know, well, what was the story the other day? The chicken nuggets, all these stories, right? In a third of cases, they get to stay.
It's preposterous. Everyone knows that a third of these cases are not exceptional cases where people have to stay. It's the lying to us that I can't handle. You know, this constant description of these people as asylum seekers. We know that they are economic migrants. Yeah. We know that the vast majority of them are coming here either because they think it's a soft touch or because they want to work, even though that would be illegal for them.
Can I jump in and say something? Somebody said this to me today and I hadn't even ever thought about it. If they weren't economic migrants who were trying to milk the system and find a loophole, they'd come in legally. They wouldn't come across the sea, would they?
Exactly right. And, you know, I'm not opposed to having economic migrants.
Neither am I.
Throughout the modern era, countries have said, listen, we need a load of new people to work in this industry or that industry. That's how my parents ended up in this country. They came here as migrants from Ireland and they took jobs in particular industries. I'm all open to that, but it has to be legal. It has to be done in the way that Britain and the British people want it to be done or need it to be done.
And that they benefit rather than they are punished for it, the British people.
But, we've had such a transformation in the whole idea of immigration. 20, 30, 40 years ago, immigration was seen as something that countries would allow when they needed workers, people who were willing to work hard, willing to abide by the
I was thinking when I was, I didn't obviously know it, don't laugh, but when I was 2, my old man got offered a job in the Western Australian government. And so we would have emigrated because that was a specific role that he did here, blah, blah, blah. We didn't go because his parents stupidly, I could have been a right old, I could have been a surfboard guy or whatever. But anyway, we didn't go. But the truth of the matter is I remember growing up and people would go to Australia, but they had to have a skill and they had to bring something to that, right? You're absolutely right. Now, I look at it and I think, so you're just going to come, and they talk to me about deterrence, right? For me, the obvious deterrent is to take away all the easy things you get for arriving here in return for bugger all. That's the truth, isn't it?
Exactly right. The deterrent should be that if you come to this country, you need to have a job, you need to have certain skills, you need to come here legally, you need to abide by the law, and you need to try to integrate. Those are the basic rules. And if you don't do that, see you later. The other deterrent, of course, is serious punishment for the people who are organising these boat trips, which we're not seeing. They are getting a tap on the wrists. People are not being punished in any serious way. So no deterrents are being issued to stop this from happening. And it's precisely because our government and the French government don't care about sovereignty. They don't care about borders. They don't care about this issue.
Did you see in the newspaper, I don't know whether it was today or yesterday, I think it might have been yesterday, even Yvette Cooper's Home Office, a Labour Home Office, had to admit, and I was not a fan of Rwanda at all, that when Rwanda was being muted, not even pulled through, that the numbers were lower, which says exactly to what you're saying, which is there a desire to do it? I don't think there is. And I keep going back to it, and people on this show go, oh, God, he's going to say it again. I just want conviction politicians who stand up and say what they're going to do, and whether it's difficult for them, they do it. They're honest, they fail, they make mistakes, and they crack on. It's simple to me. I don't understand why it's so complicated. This situation is affecting not just, of course, who'd want to go on a boat? Terrible, terrible, terrible. But the fact of the matter is, these people are not escaping war-torn countries. They are coming here because we give more than other people, which I guess has been fine for years under the guise of we need these workers. But now it's illuminated because the truth of the matter is, and you know this, Brennan, better than me, there are people in this country who are missing out and people who are coming to this country who are being treated better. It is not racist to deplore that as an action. It isn't. It's fact.
Absolutely not. It really isn't. And people are sick and tired of seeing money being spent on certain people and not on the people who've lived here for ages and ages and ages and who are citizens of this country. But, you know, the thing is, it's the lying that gets me. It's the insistence that they're asylum seekers. It's the treatment of them as victims who need our help. Look, just be upfront with us. Just tell us honestly that you've lost control of our borders and that something has to be done about it. Because the starting point to every solution, every political solution starts with frank honesty and free debate. If we don't have that, we will never get.
But I don't think that was talking to Jack Elsom, the new from Monday, the new political editor of The Sun, and I was saying, why don't we have the sort of politician, the Trump-esque person, warts and all, don't agree with everything he's done, but there's no fear with him. He doesn't mind if he's criticised. He'll shut somebody down. If he thinks something's unreasonable, he'll get rid of them. You know, you can say, oh, that's outrageous. Thatcher did the same. It worked. In the end, they destroy themselves. That's a fact of life because they're brave enough to stick their head above the parapet. But, you know, we were talking yesterday about how Reform had sort of this Doge-style attack, and they've gone into Kent County Council. Nathaniel Freed, this sort of self-made sort of accounting genius, has gone in free of charge and is going to try and find where waste is. And I said to Richard Tice, can you imagine if Reform are elected, if they went into the NHS, if they went into, I don't know, the MOD, if they went into Whitehall? I mean, extraordinary amounts of money. There's so many things to me that make sense that politicians could do, and yet they seem, I don't know why, Brendan, too scared to do it, even if it would be popular.
You know, that's such an important point because we're constantly told that the problems public institutions face is that they don't have enough money. The police are saying, we don't have enough money, so we'll have to stop solving certain crimes. I really agree with your caller earlier on who said, actually, you've not been solving crimes for ages, even with the money. But the NHS always says we haven't got enough money, and France said we didn't have enough money to stop the boats. The problem isn't a lack of funding, it's a lack of common sense. It's a lack of moral mission. The real crisis afflicting the Whitehall blob and the police and the NHS and every other institution that governs this country is that they have no sense of mission, no sense of commitment to the people of this country, and no sense of doing what's right. And it's not a funding problem. You could cut half of the budget of the NHS and make it a better institution if it knew what it was actually for.
Couldn't agree with you more. Are you all right if I take a call? Because I'd love your input. We'll go to Cambridgeshire. Andrew, you're on Talk Drive. Brendan O'Neill from Spiked is with me. What do you want to say? A couple of minutes, pal. Go.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the benefits farce. A few years ago, I got knocked off my bicycle on the way to work, and I went to claim benefits, and they took my wife's pension and my daughter's universal credit into account, and the fact that I was getting £99 a week SSP, and they said, you've got enough coming in, that's it, nothing, right? And then the SSP finished, and then they gave me £99 a week. And then on one occasion, they actually overpaid me by a little bit, and they claimed it back immediately out of my wife's pension. And then the company let me go, and they said to me, you've got to get another job now. And I said, well, my arm isn't fixed yet. And they said, well, you've got a left hand. And I said, well, okay, I'll get a job that pays £99 a week then, because that's all you were giving me. She goes, we were giving you more than that. I said, no, you weren't. She goes, we were paying you rent. I said, no, you weren't. And it was just lie after lie after lie all the time. Basically, they weren't going to give me out.
Can I ask you something as calmly as I can be on this? I hope I know what Brendan's going to say. Am I wrong? Are we wrong as a station? Are we wrong, Brendan, as well as people, to say, hold on a minute, right? There's a bloke, right, who's paid in, had an accident, needs help, doesn't get it, and yet you can come here, having not paid in and not had an accident, and be treated better. Which is absolutely barking bloody mad. And the sooner or later, all politicians wake up to that and get their heads out of their woke backsides. The truth is going to... You must think that, surely, Andrew? Disgraceful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing that really got me was I actually told them at the benefits office, you make me feel as though the crash was my fault.
Wow.
And then, of course, the police didn't really do much of an investigation. I mean, Cambridgeshire Constabulary are in the unenviable position of making a chocolate fire garden look useful. They then came back and said, oh, there's insufficient evidence to prosecute.
Thank you, Andrew. Brendan, I mean, I wonder how many millions of people has stories like Andrew's across the UK when my country that I've paid into, when I need to ask it for help, it tells me to do one.
You know, I'm not anti-welfare. On the contrary, I think
neither am I.
Society needs a really well-funded safety net to help people, citizens of this country, when they fall ill or they have an accident or for some reason they can't work. That is an essential part of a civilized society. The problem is that we have people not being given the benefits that they deserve and that they've worked hard for all their lives. And yet at the same time, we have people in the UK claiming sickness benefits that they don't actually need. We have young people saying, oh, I'm too mentally stressed to work, and it's not true. And of course, we have such wasteful spending on these new arrivals that the government doesn't know what to do about, who are being put up in hotels or given homes. And of course, extraordinary waste in the blob, where you have DEI people earning tens of thousands of pounds every month for talking crap, if you'll excuse my language. So it's a complete and utter misappropriation of funds that should be going to British citizens and are going to idiots instead.
I couldn't agree more, and I want to make the same point that you did from a personal point of view. I think the welfare state was the greatest invention in the modern world. I am very happy. I've done okay in my life to pay a lot of tax to say there are people in this country who can't help themselves and they need help. But it is without any shadow of a doubt true now to say that we are helping people with those funds who don't deserve it. But what annoys me even more is that is having a kick-on effect, and people like Andrew and other people like him, when... Did you hear that in his voice when he said, they made me feel like it was my fault? He was made to feel worthless for daring to say to society, I'm having a hard time, can you help me? That's the truth, and that's what's so appalling. Bearing in mind you can come in and you can get whatever. That's what I find so galling.
And that is what's going to make people really skeptical of the welfare system, because they will think, look, what is this for? Is it just a scam to assist people from overseas who shouldn't be in this country or came here illegally? Is it just a way to, is it just a way to enrich the middle classes who oversee the welfare system and who gain a lot of clout and a lot of influence from overseeing it in this kind of feudalistic way? What's it for? Surely, if we're having a welfare system, and we should have one, it should be used discreetly in a way that British citizens need help. They're down on their luck. They've had an accident. They're disabled. They're ill. They deserve our help, and we're giving it to the wrong people right now.
Final one, if I can, quickly. I said after about 11 weeks, when the Labour government, with this huge majority, announced they were cutting winter fuel payments to millions of pensioners, that it was their poll tax moment and that it would never, ever enable them to regain the trust of the British public. Rachel Reeves, or Rachel Thieves, has today raised hopes for millions of pensioners by confirming that changes to the winter fuel payments will kick in this year. So another U-turn, but in fact, no detail about how, when, why or what, just rhetoric. After his sort of mumbled in the middle of question time, Prime Minister's questions, he went, yeah, we're going to look at it again. I find it unbelievable that these people spent so long in opposition and have been such a catastrophic mistake. I mean, how does anybody allow that to happen? Surely you would go, oh, I'm going to hack off the 12 million people, pensioners in this country, who've worked all their lives, they're never going to vote for me again. Who spoke into anybody's ear and went, that's a good idea? U-turn. Again, lies.
It's complete lunacy, and it demonstrates how out of touch they are with ordinary people. You find yourself wondering, has Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves ever met a normal, elderly, working-class person? Do they know how these people live, or what they think, or what they expect from a society where they've been working and parenting for years and years and years?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely ludicrous. And also, I think the U-turn is going to make this problem even worse, because they are screwing up the U-turn. They can't give us the details. They're not promising everyone that they'll get their winter allowance back. They're going to make this situation even worse. I think you're dead right. This is their poll tax moment, and it could be the death knell of the Labour government.
Love having you on, mate. I know how busy you are. We really appreciate it. Excellent as well. Chief political writer of Spiked, our good friend Brendan O'Neill there on Talk Drive, 6:24. Now, here till 7, Kev O'Sullivan from 7, Petri Hoskins from 10. If you want to be part of the debate in the next 35 minutes, 0344 419 1000. Talk Drive.
We're in a propaganda tornado at the moment, coming from the other side, if I may say, call it that, which I think I should. And the reason is that Israel is close to winning. And the reason it's close to winning is that it's tackling the issue of aid. All of this propaganda is attracted to the issue of aid. And the reason is that until now, the UN has been bringing in the aid. Hamas, the UN is compromised by Hamas. Many of the UN, 1,200 of them, actually are members of Hamas or Islamic Jihad. Hamas takes the aid from the UN and then sells it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
My friend 627, you'll know if you're if you're a regular to this show and this station that we don't allow many lefties, but there's only one lefty I have on because the man speaks more common sense than anybody. Delighted to see him, fresh from a stag do. Oh yeah, Matthew Torbett, former Labour advisor. How was the stag do, son?
It was good. Do you know what? I was a bit nervous because I've been teetotal 2.5 years now, recovering alcoholic, and I only knew the groom, 13 lads, and I thought, are they going to quite get it? Are they going to be like, go on, you can have one, and there's that peer pressure? They're all amazing. I had a great time. I called it a night when I'd sort of had enough. I was tired more than anything, but...
Getting old, son, now, aren't you?
Well, that would be it, really.
How old are you now?
34 now.
60 in 6 weeks.
No, you don't look it.
You're a great man. I will continue to push you. Now, the one thing that people love about having you on this station, they always say Matthew Torbett's the only lefty that speaks sense and what is honest. We've talked repeatedly about this government. I'm going to start differently today. Rachel Reeves has today raised the hopes of millions of pensioners by confirming that changes to the winter fuel payments will kick in this year. You and I have spoken about how I see it as their poll tax moment. I thought it was ludicrous. I think you immediately alienate 12 million pensioners. I thought Brendan O'Neill made a really salient point just then when he said even the U-turns being screwed up. No detail, no specifics, just that belief again that you are saying something, Rachel Thieves, that's been told to you by a focus group, or finally you've got your head into, we were smashed in the local elections because actually people find this repugnant and revolting, especially people in there, you know, you've paid, like your dad, it's just not acceptable. This isn't, I don't understand. Somebody said earlier that when you're in opposition, you calibrate the way to behave. Did nobody, Matt, seriously go, this is political suicide, and it's not getting any better with the U-turn because they look incompetent, and they are incompetent in this.
No, nobody did say that, and actually the person that invented a job for himself was Rachel Reeves, his political secretary. The Chancellor has never had a political secretary in all these years, but he'd done a good job of sort of killing the left and had got in with Morgan and whatever else. I believe it was him that said, no, do it. Do it.
Who is this?
Matt Pound. Matt Pound was the one that said, do it, we need to do it. There's two things on this. An MP on the left reminded me, I said, it's pointless they're even doing this, you know, we've ruined it already, and he said, no, it's right that she does it because people are protected, and also it means they may eventually give in on other things. For those of us on the progressive side of politics, we need to take any victory we can. Secondly, the reason why the plan isn't forthcoming, I don't think she's been told. People forget that Keir Starmer announced that he was going to make these sort of changes or whatever at a conference that was abroad.
I thought it was a Prime Minister's question time.
No.
Was it before that?
Before that. And I think he's decided it on the hoof. Well, she's now, unfortunately, and I wouldn't say I feel sorry for her necessarily, but she's got to go and find the money, and there's no money. So that's why she can't announce a plan. I think she's been totally blindsided, and I would say actually purposefully.
Oh, really? Now, we talked about this before I went away.
I think the more I've spoke to people in Westminster, the amount of briefings against Rachel Reeves, she's absolutely going after the budget.
Now, this is really interesting because I don't know, because my brain doesn't go back that far, and it's only been 3 hours, but one of our guests earlier said, I think it was Jack Elson, the new political editor of The Sun from Monday. Jack said that he felt that they're so wedded together, the Chancellor and Starmer, that the other side of your argument is that if he casts her aside, history will show, Kwasi Kwarteng and others, you get rid of your Chancellor, you're probably next.
Hopefully. I think that would be good. I think
you genuinely, as an ex-Labour advisor, think that Starmer's time is up?
Yeah, and I say that as a current Labour member. It's ridiculous that 10 months in, but I think you could have said this 3 months ago. The thing about this U-turn is U-turns can be done well if they're done quickly.
Yeah.
So I said on this programme, if I remember rightly, about the budget, don't have a rabbit out the hat. The rabbit out of your hat should be, do you know what, we've listened. We're a government that listens. We're not going to do the winter fuel because actually there are other ways we maybe could raise this money. I think that would have got her a little bit of credibility.
Yeah.
Now, the U-turn is a U-turn. We'll take it on the sort of progressive left. However, it's seen as inauthentic and it's happened because you've been battered at the ballot box in May. Therefore, nobody really cares and your political credibility and electoral sort of suitability is not changed at all. People go, well, we don't care because you're only doing this because you've got to. You're not doing this because you care.
You know this more than me, but I think there are moments in politics that stick forever.
Yeah.
And I don't see how Starmer and Reeves ever lose that moniker. Cancelled winter fuel payments. We can talk about net zero, we can talk about defence, we can talk about immigration, we can talk about everything. But that, I remember saying it at the time, is almost one of the most core parts of our society. Pensioners. It's like, let's throw the veterans. Ridiculous, right? There's a guy I spoke to yesterday, was impressed with Al Carnes, by the way. In the defence.
Nice guy.
Nice
he seems
guy.
okay.
You know, he was switched on and he admitted that they've made
mistakes.
mistakes.
Why? He's not from a political background. He's fairly normal. He's fairly new to politics. Therefore, you know, he sees it as a duty in the same way he's seen the armed forces. He doesn't believe in the spin. He'll sort of answer things as he sees them. And I think looks good because of that, really.
Going back to what you're saying, you think she's being briefed against, and you believe that Rachel Reeves is not long for this world politically.
I don't know anybody at the moment in Labour who doesn't think that. She's done as far as people are concerned. She's toxic on the doorstep. Keir's bad enough, but she's the one where all these decisions have come from, and people can see her as that. I said it to you this time last year, was it? This has all the possibilities of being terminal, and I think this has been proven to be true.
Who would replace her as Chancellor if she goes after the budget?
Well, this is the question. So we were thinking about this earlier today. I was talking to a couple of MPs, and really you want an ally in, but the problem is people were saying about Darren Jones, who's sort of her deputy, if you will, as Chief Secretary of the Treasury. Well, he's that wedded to the Reeves project, it would seem bizarre, and there will be all sorts of things he's tweeted or interviewed and said that would go back against what he's doing, because the only way you can sort of, I think we're finished, we're losing the next election, right?
Do you really?
Yeah. I don't see. Do you know the only way, and even then it's a huge uphill task, the only way this could ever be turned around is for somebody to become leader who isn't in the building. And I think the only person that is Andy Burnham, because you cannot tie any of these unpopular decisions to him. He's one of the only politicians up and around the Red Wall that people like, and there's positivity. He sounds normal. I think he's learnt a lot from his 2 failed leadership bids and also from being Mayor of Manchester, and I think he connects with people in a way that Keir absolutely doesn't. The problem is they're not going to let him in, because they'll know as soon as he tries to come in, if he goes, right, I'm standing down as Mayor of Manchester and I'm going into this by-election where somebody's died, or there is an MP in the Cabinet who's always wanted to be Mayor of Manchester and maybe there's a deal that could be done there, them lot around Keir, they're not letting him in, because they're going to be out of power, aren't they? It's totally obvious what will be happening. I think at this point, we're done. Like, we're losing.
Genuinely, you do?
Yeah, no.
10 months in?
I was at a lecture today, halfway through the day. Sir Michael, terrible, I've forgotten his name. He's the Professor of Government at Oxford University.
Yeah.
And I couldn't disagree with anything he said. And he was very negative. And he said he was overjoyed when Labour won. Finally, we might change things. And he spoke almost the language of reform, when I think he was a former Labour member until very recently, about how essentially this has been coming because the elites down here, very London-centric, have absolutely ignored anywhere north of Birmingham for the last 40 or 50 years. And actually, I'd argue forever, if I'm totally honest. Growing up in Manchester, you would feel second class compared to those in London and those with opportunities elsewhere. You felt like people don't care. And his view, which I didn't necessarily disagree with, is that it's reforms to lose. And I think in this sort of weird parallel or maybe academic game, maybe it's needed. Maybe it's needed. Maybe.
It's very interesting if you speak to people about politics in general and how it's always been one party either for one term or two, followed by another party, blah, blah, blah. the criticism of the Labour Party and the Tories, by the way, but the criticism of the Labour government is that none of them have really had a job. They all get master's degrees in politics and go and study in think tanks somewhere, in, as you say, within the M25. The thing about reform that's fascinating for me is I genuinely believe that the British people are so fed up for many, many reasons. They feel like they're not being put first, that they'd actually accept mistakes, failure, attack. That Trump idea of, this is what I believe in, and I've said it so many times on the show, come with me. I'll be honest with you, there'll be days that are good and days that are bad. I'll make mistakes, I'll cock things up, but I'll do my best by you. I think the British people are crying out for that, and that's why I think it is reforms to lose. But let's talk about that. 4 years out. It's a long time, 4 years. And you know, the attacks on reform will undoubtedly start, probably not from Badenoch, because in 4 years' time she'll probably still be doing a review as to what went wrong. You lost because you lied, love. That's why your party lost. Well, it's true. That annoys me so much as well. But it is Farage's to lose. Do you think that he can put together the right team, the right structures, the right organisation to genuinely form? And you're Labour voter. You think that reform could form the next government, a majority government?
I don't know if it'd be a majority. This is the thing. I mean, I think 4 years, long time to turn this around. Do you know what? 4 years could get a lot worse for Labour as well. That's the other thing. This is the problem. Dominic Cummings, I thought, had it right in his interviews last weekend. Yeah. And he said, up to now, which is totally true. I mean, I speak to Nigel's team a lot. I get on with Nigel, not necessarily Nigel, but Nigel's team. It's always been Nigel and a smartphone up to now. And it's a one-man band. If he, dropped dead tomorrow, that's it. Reform are done. I think people might still look to it as an alternative, but he is the best communicator, political communicator in this country at the moment, by far. There's no getting away from that. If it's still him and a smartphone, their cap will be 50, 100, 150 seats. Now, what Cummings said he suggested to Farage over dinner is you need a whole team of people, both behind the scenes, but you need to offer up essentially a cabinet, spokespeople that will say, look, this guy will be my Chancellor if we're elected, this guy will be my Home Secretary. And that way, people can go, well, look at their cabinet and look at the state of this one. I'd much rather that one. And it was interesting, Farage gave an interview, I think it was yesterday, to the Telegraph, and he said what he's now looking at doing is creating a team, and basically he's following what Cummings has said. In that case, it could be a majority, because it could get much worse. Did
you think, I know we're going to say, did you think you'd be saying this 10 months ago when Labour swept to power with a blinding majority?
I said on election night, live, to respond to the exit poll, this is the best it will get. I'm happy to... I've dug it out before because people didn't believe me and thought I've just joined this anti-Labour thing. No. This is the reason why I left after the election, because I didn't believe it was going to work. I'd worked with these people up close, and I said what worries me is that we're now going to get further managed decline. I hope we aren't. Seemingly we are. I said I hope we don't get more managed decline, and at the next election it will be a choice between potentially Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. People in Number 10, people around Labour laughed at me, and they didn't pick up the same thing I picked up in areas in the north, where as soon as Nigel came into the race and entered late into the general election, the momentum was sweeping that way and people were over the moon. They hated us, but they hated the Tories more. We essentially won by default, and if we didn't respond to people's concerns, people's issues, then they're going to sweep ahead of us. And it's happened.
I love having you on, mate. You know you're always welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. I always find it fascinating. I could listen to you forever. Matthew Torbett, former Labour advisor on Tour Drive, 20 to 7.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
18 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Jeremy Kyle on Drive, and I've been looking forward to this moment since I came back from my holiday. I miss her, I love her, I need her. Kinsey Schofield, hello.
You know, I see you in 1 week.
Gee, honestly, that sounded like an 0800 number. You know, I see you in a week. Phone now. It's 39p a minute. You're not supposed to say that publicly, are you?
I mean, it's no secret. I get to see you IRL.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like
yeah, but you see, you make me feel special, and then you'll be with all these other... I'll see these pictures of you with all these other newscasters, my favourite, and then I'll be right at the bottom end of it all, and it's depressing. I'm 60 in 4 weeks, darling.
You are full of it. Also, can I come to your birthday party?
I'm not having one. Genuinely not having a birthday party.
What?
Because I'm being completely serious when I tell you. You can tell by looking in my eyes. It actually is a moment I'm not looking forward to.
You should be so grateful that you're here to see your beautiful babies grow up.
No,
JK.
I get all that. Although I'm obviously going to die old, sad, and skint because of them. No, I'm joking. It's just that I do being sick. I don't feel 60.
Well, you don't look 60 either. That's a blessing as well. You look young, you're funny, you're fun. I missed you while you were gone. You've got great energy.
Oh.
It is a blessing to be alive, JK. You should be so excited. I'm going to throw this party for you.
Okay. I mean, if you're going to tell me off, you do it next week in person. Anyway, it's lovely to have you on. And are you well? First up, is everything good? Everything all right in LA? How long are you coming to England for?
Oh, no, I'm only there for a week. I'm there to celebrate Trooping the Colour.
Oh, you're so cool. Now, this is difficult for me. Meghan and Harry, I find this... I feel like there's going to be a little bit of sick in my mouth as I try and describe this, because fresh from repeatedly telling us that they were escaping the United Kingdom because they wanted privacy. They hated the press. They hated everything to be involved in the intrusion in their lives. And then they had their little children, and the feral children, and they left them with the chickens. And all she does now with her jams that are crap is post pictures of her children left, right and centre, which has me always thinking, well, hold on a second, you duplicitous woman, how does that make any sense? But we've now reached a point where I possibly am going to be sick live on the television. Meghan Markle has posted a cringy video of her and Prince Harry dancing in a hospital room. This is we're playing it. She's waiting for she's twerking with the baby to try and make the baby come. This is to induce Elizabeth's birth. She's dancing in front of the camera. Oh, God, it looks like a lap dancing club with pregnant women. He's also dancing in front of the camera. She's got a black dress on. She's literally holding her bump and twerking, and she's put this on social media. The woman is... that's getting worse now. She looks like she's performing.
Well, JK, the lyrics are prego, but I'm still doing moves like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm pregnant. Get the child support and pay my rent. Your opinion is irrelevant because I'm a baby mama. I can do what I wanna. That is the song she's dancing to about getting that child support.
Sorry, you got it. I'm sorry. The greatest moment in British. Just do that. Just do that again. Jodie is on the floor, which isn't been the first time. Just do again what you just said. This is what she's dancing to.
Prego, but I'm still doing moves like Beyonce. Yeah, I said I'm pregnant. Get that child support and pay my rent. Your opinion is irrelevant because I'm a baby mama and I can do what I wanna.
My God. Is it me? Is it me, or is there nothing this woman... Is she ever going to get to the point where she literally looks in the mirror and goes, nobody's interested in my jam or my life, nobody likes me, shut the hell up?
I mean, this is oversharing, oversharing, oversharing. She had the chance to be seen as elegant, elusive, and powerful, the kind of woman people lean in to hear.
Yeah.
But instead, we've heard everything. Every grievance, every private conversation, every subtle slight turned into a headline, from Oprah to Spotify to Netflix, to staged whispers in People magazine. It's been non-stop. The Worldwide Privacy Tour on South Park, it's come to life. That's what we're witnessing in this hospital room right here.
I mean, that's the point. It was all about privacy. It was all about how they were in this goldfish bowl and how the British press, but in fact the world's press, were out for nothing other than to destroy them and to make them feel like allegedly Diana felt in the end. All of this, that was what the escape was about. And I've said it so many times it bores me. I got it at that point. You know, when they got on that plane, I got it. But the minute you sign a $100 million deal with Spotify and now you're posting yourself twerking, oh, this is getting worse, this video. She's getting lower by the minute. He's now playing with his groin. I think there is now sick, essentially in my mouth. There is a little bit of sick just at the back. Oh my God, this is horrific. Go online and watch this. Duchess...
Don't do it. Why are you telling people to, not unless you're a masochist? I mean, you're right. What made Princess Diana so unforgettable wasn't just her vulnerability. It was the restraint. Yeah. I mean, she chose moments. Meghan shares like she's live tweeting a breakup in real time. There's no pacing, no sense of occasion. No. And when you constantly overshare, people stop listening. You dull your own impact. Oversharing doesn't build trust. It erodes credibility, and it makes people question what's real, what's curated like this, and why there's always another bombshell around the corner. And what's worse, it makes her predictable. You know she's going to say something or do something dramatic. You just don't know which platform she's going to monetize it on. Mystery is power. Look at the royal family. And Meghan gave all of hers away, one interview at a time.
It's really interesting what you say, and I'll tell you why I agree. You know what my old man did. He worked for the Queen Mother for 41 years. And he said, and I've never forgotten this, that the mystique of the royal family died with the Queen Mother, and that all of the royal family, to a degree, were responsible for using the media and using social media to achieve whatever they were trying to achieve. And he included Diana, and he included Prince Charles, and he included Sarah Ferguson, and all of them in that. In the old days, we didn't know. Of course, the British monarchy had to modernise, and I get that. But there's one word that keeps coming back to me about these two. It's about privacy. They've been to court. They've spent millions of, well, probably taxpayers' money talking about privacy. And now we've got a video of her twerking in a black dress with a lump. I mean, I'm not just don't watch it, but it's revolting. Her ass is it's everywhere. But what I'm trying to say is, how does anybody take that seriously? And if you step back as I do, like a royalist, that's a princess. That's not a princess. Oh, that's not a duchess. I mean, that's a disgrace.
Royal life isn't just about tiaras and tabloid covers. No. It's about diplomacy, duty, and deference. It's a system built on nuanced protocol and deep-rooted cultural history. Meghan entered this world like it was a Hollywood set, assuming she could rewrite the script, center herself in every scene, and edit out anything that didn't fit her narrative. You know, royals are trained to master understatement. Look at the Princess of Wales, Catherine. Meghan has always preferred oversharing. You know, and then there's etiquette, or in her case, the lack of etiquette. She approached royal traditions like they were beneath her, when in fact, those traditions are the job. And I just want to stress, for the record, being an American isn't the issue, because Grace Kelly married into royalty and became a symbol of poise. Absolutely. Meghan had the opportunity to be a modern princess with real influence. Instead, you know, she's used it to prop up her own personal brand.
I couldn't agree more. And just to finish, because God, it's so good to speak to you, and I can't wait to see you next week. I've asked you this every time we speak for a reason. Where does this all end in your mind, Kins?
Oh my gosh, where does this? I mean, I think that they're going to do another reality show. I think that they are going to have to break down and continue to spill, because I don't think that any of their commercial ventures are working. But this is not the way. This is not the path. I think she's being completely destructive to her own brand.
I think they split within 12 months. They are. I say he comes back to the United Kingdom, as I've said on numerous occasions, with his ginger tail between his legs. I think she won't ever be able to come back to the United Kingdom. But listen, it's just fascinating. I mean, you have to watch the video just if you want to be sick. If you're feeling like you need to throw your dinner up, go and watch the video online. Kins, when am I seeing you?
On Wednesday.
OK, I'm going to buy you a drink or three. Lots of love. Fly safe. Thank you so much indeed. Kinsey Schofield, even, live from LA. She will be here next week in the United Kingdom. What is it, 8 minutes to 7 o'clock on Talk Drive?
40 years, white British people will be a minority in their own country. That is not good. When did the people vote for that? I mean, that's a very serious question. They never voted for this. And the fact that we treat this as if it is completely normal is absurd. If I would show you a number that says Saudi Arabia will be majority Christian in 40 years, your question would be, why is that? What happened? What did the Saudis do? How could that take place? And in Britain, we say, well, this is then these weird BBC documentaries where they say, well, somehow Britain has always been a nation of colored people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can I just say before we finish and before Kev takes over, thank you to the best team in radio. I realised how much I missed them actually the last 2 weeks going on holiday with those bloody children. Jodie, who doesn't think, no, I'm not saying it, she's a legend. I can't say anything. 3 times 7. Sam, amazing, we love you, Charlton Athletic. And Rai, the man who came up to me today, just I finished the show as I started and said, "Do you like to see what me and Lauren did last night?" And I went, "Not really." He said, "Here's the video." They spent the evening cleaning their cat's teeth. Ladies and gentlemen, that is their life. You've been amazing, guys. Thank you so much indeed. And the lady on the... What your name? I mean, Faith. Great faith in you. Faith, sorry, don't hit me over the head. 0344 499 1000. Get your calls in for Kev. He's on the way. I am, of course, Justice Fluffer to Glasgow. Bruce, you've got 1 minute on Talk Drive. What you got, kidder?
Jeremy, I can use the deterrent of Rwanda to sort out the channel crossings within 4 weeks. The first thing we do is we get from the Royal Air Force 2 or 3 500-seat Galaxy heavy-lift aircraft, and we base them at Bryce Norton. We then airdrop tens of thousands of leaflets to the migrant camps in the north of France to say that the next batch of boats that come over the channel, the people will be arrested and taken and put into Bryce Norton under secure accommodation, and as soon as we reach 500 people, these planes will take off for Rwanda. No legal aid, no lawyers, no appeals, nothing. In the meantime, we send the border force out to the 13-mile-an-hour limit, and we tell these people who are coming across that they have absolutely no chance, if they land in England, of staying in England. So, if they continue to come across, they either will end up in Rwanda, or, if they want, they can turn around and go back to France.
Do you know what's really interesting about what you said today in the newspaper? It was reported that even Yvette Cooper's Home Office admitted that when the threat of Rwanda was relevant, not even had it been deployed, the numbers were less. I wasn't a fan of Rwanda, but there's no doubt the deterrent, some form of deterrent, is massively important. Just very quickly, I only got 30 seconds. My idea of a deterrent, I'm not against what you're saying, is to make it less bloody attractive to come here in the first place, my friend.
Yeah, but that's going to take time, Jeremy. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to keep working on the galaxies, the border force, the leafletings. We do it day after day after day, and I reckon within 4 weeks the boats will not be coming across the channel.
You're a good man, Bruce in Glasgow. Thank you very much indeed. A couple of minutes to 7 o'clock. I'd like to take this opportunity for apologising to you, because apparently I haven't done very well with your audience today.
Yeah, no, was that Sam? I told him to come in and
it's
tell
taken
you
me
that.
3 hours to get it to... Anyway,
I
there
know,
we go.
I know. I only did it as a joke.
I know.
You always leave it in a good state for me. I mean it.
Kinsey's on the way over. She's coming over.
I know she is.
What you got, kidder? Because, again, did you hear Matthew Talbot? Who I love, by the way. He said Starmer and Reeves will be gone. They will not win they will be gone, and Labour will lose the next election.
When does he think they'll go?
Within the year. He says she'll go after the budget. They're already briefing against her. Fascinating.
Yeah, if there are senior Labour string pullers working behind the scenes, then I think that will happen. If there are people who are more powerful than Starmer and Reeves, yeah, they have to go.
Farage is to lose, he said, Matthew Talbot, already.
Well, I think that's true. I think it's absolutely true. We're going to talk about this, actually.
Yeah.
James Cleverly is making a speech as we speak, saying that Tories, we should go full net zero, and we can still help the economy grow with all the green stuff that.
Can I be really honest about James Cleverly? He's doing what the old Tories do: everything to everybody. It doesn't work.
But this is political suicide. Yeah. This is the Tories committing suicide. So we're going to be covering that. Obviously, covering this alarming prediction that in 40 years, white